Chapter 1649. Gongsun Shui was very efficient. The next day, she brought people over to help with the search. I am Wei Yu, the magistrate of the capital city. If you need anything, I will do my best to cooperate. Wei Yu looked young and talented. He was upright and sincere. Soon he won the trust of everyone. But Chu Qingyan thought that the most important reason was that he was good-looking. People were always very tolerant of good-looking people. Lord Wei, these are my distinguished guests. Please don't neglect them. Gongsun Shui only showed the dignity of a superior in front of officials. Wei Yu agreed in fear and trepidation. These people were valued by the sect master, and were brought here to meet them personally. It was obvious how important these people were. I will do my best. Very good. Gongsun Shui nodded. Then she turned to Xiao Su and said, if you have any information, you can tell Lord Wei. He will help you search. If you need manpower, he will cooperate. Xiao Su nodded. Thank you, Sect Master Gongsun Shui. After that, Xiao Su asked Water Spirit to talk to Wei Yu. The two walked to the side. After settling the important matters, Gongsun Shui felt that it was time for her to leave. Thinking of the documents on the table, she couldn't help but want to leave. However, she suddenly found that Xiao Yao, who was usually noisy, seemed to be quiet today. She couldn't help but look for him in the crowd. It would have been better if she didn't look. Once she looked, she met his inexplicably sad eyes. Seeing her look, he turned to look at Wei Yu. His eyes were wide open and he was almost glaring at her. Did this guy know Wei Yu? As for Wei Yu, who was talking to Shui Ling, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. From the moment he entered, he had felt that the handsome young man with the injured arm was constantly glaring at him. Wei Yu didn't know when he had provoked this person, but in short, he felt extremely wronged. At this time, Qiu Feng came in and whispered a few words in Gongsun Shui's ear. Gongsun Shui turned around and said a few words to Xiao Su, Chu Qingyan, and the others before leaving. She had just taken a few steps when she heard footsteps behind her. She walked and stopped. She couldn't help but turn around. Why are you following me? Xiao Yao didn't feel embarrassed at being caught red-handed at all. He complained. Someone said that he would change my dressing, but now he's ready to run away. I have to come here to catch him. Besides, if you can go this way, why can't I? Gongsun Shui was accompanied by a servant, who had never seen Xiao Yao before. She felt that this person's tone was arrogant, daring to speak to the sect leader in such a manner. She immediately stood out and angrily rebuked. Where did you come from, brat? How dare you disrespect the sect leader? Xiao Yao couldn't be bothered with her. He stared at Gongsun Shui without blinking. If eyes could speak, they would definitely say, this baby is wronged. I need the ice beauty to coax him. Gongsun Shui didn't expect him to do this, but she didn't feel angry. Instead, she felt a little unhappy when she saw the servant scolding him. She raised her hand and waved the servant away. Leave. The servant was extremely surprised. Where did this brat come from? How could the sect leader tolerate this brat's disrespect? Qiu Feng shook her head at this servant. He didn't have any eyesight at all. She didn't even know how he managed to become the sect leader's servant. Gongsun Shui said to him, I don't have time now. I'll change your dressing later. Although this answer was a little unsatisfactory, at least she didn't deny it. Xiao Yao reluctantly agreed to it. After saying that, Gongsun Shui frowned when she saw that he wasn't going to leave in such thin clothes. What else do you want? Xiao Yao touched his nose and coughed lightly. His eyes drifted as he asked, That Wei Yu, what's your relationship with her? Other than a subordinate relationship, what else could there be? Gongsun Shui was a little confused. Hearing her honest and straightforward tone, Xiao Yao was instantly delighted. He knew that she was a woman of her words and didn't care to lie. If she said that there was no relationship, then there was no relationship. That's good. He nodded. What do you mean that's good? What's wrong with you today? You're talking nonsense. Although she had urgent matters to deal with, seeing him like this, Gongsun Shui couldn't help but stay a little longer. She wondered if she should find an imperial physician to take a look at him. Could it be that his wound was infected and he had a fever? Xiao Yao's gaze hardened as he looked at her seriously. His tone was a little domineering. In the future, you're not allowed to get too close to other men, even if they're your subjects. Who knows what kind of tricks they have up their sleeves? Hearing him judge her subjects like this, Gongsun Shui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why was this person like a child? All right, I know what I'm doing. What else do you want? If not, I have to go. Gongsun Shui didn't think too deeply about it, and didn't realize that this person was jealous. Saying these words now was a declaration of sovereignty. Xiao, who wasn't far away, heard Xiao Yao's words and felt that it was a little disgraceful. Their sect master was the leader of a country, and could get whatever she wanted. She didn't even need to beckon, and there would be people who would volunteer themselves to sleep with her. And this Xiao Yao, who hadn't even become a concubine in the harem, actually dared to meddle in the sect master's affairs. It was simply too absurd. But what was even more absurd was that the sect master didn't punish him, and even agreed to his request. It was over. Was she still asleep today? Why did she feel like everything she saw and heard was a dream? Just as Qiufeng was doubting her life, Xiao Yao touched his injured hand and blinked at Gongsun Shui. Did you come to see me last night? Gongsun Shui was stunned. When she went over last night, no one should know. Moreover, he was sleeping so soundly, so it was even more impossible for him to know. He didn't expect her to answer, and continued with some regret. I fell asleep last night. Perhaps I was too tired and didn't notice you coming over. If I didn't find an extra bandage this morning, I wouldn't know either. How are you so sure it was me? What if your big brother asked someone to change your bandage? Gongsun Shui was a little confused when she heard his confident tone. Xiao Yao said with pride and certainty, "It must be you. I studied the way you bandaged me was different. The knots were very small, and both knots were on the right side." Gongsun Shui was speechless. There was actually such a way to identify. And this person was too bored to study this. Besides, my big brother said that he would leave this matter to you, so he wouldn't use anyone else's hands. Xiao Yao said as he raised his eyebrows at her, with the same childishness as when he was sleeping soundly last night. Gongsun Shui felt that she really had to hand it to him. However, she couldn't admit it in front of him. There were so many people here. If they knew that she, a sect master, actually snuck into someone's room and secretly bandaged his wound, what kind of prestige would she have if word got out? She kept a straight face. Are you done? Xiao Yao was originally very happy, but when he saw her looking at him coldly, he couldn't help but gulp. He looked at her carefully. I'm done. No way, the ice beauty was angry. I'm leaving. Gongsun Shui turned around and wanted to continue walking, but her heart softened when she saw his careful gaze just now. If I'm done, I'll come find you during lunchtime. After saying this, she didn't stay any longer and strode away. Chapter 1650. By the time Xiao Yao reacted, she had already walked some distance away. He immediately laughed loudly and replied, "Okay, I'll wait for you." Hearing this, Gongsun Shui, who had her back to him, wondered why this person was so annoying. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have wasted time dealing with urgent matters. However, it was she who stopped to talk to him. If she was really impatient, she could have just turned around and left. However, seeing him standing upright in his green robe under the sun, she couldn't move her feet. This man whose smile was brighter than the sun was the only warm color in this winter. She wanted to look at him a few more times, so that she would have the strength to deal with those troublesome official matters. Seeing Gongsun Shui and the others walk away, Xiao Yao sneezed. He rubbed his arms. It was so cold. When he woke up this morning, he found that the dressing on his wound had been changed. He was in a daze for a while. Then, when he learned that she was coming today, he didn't have time to put on more clothes and rushed over. He patted his head and walked back. He thought to himself in a self-deprecating manner. He had been with girls since he was young. Even if he hadn't eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. Why was he still acting like a hothead? Oh, the more he lived, the more backward he became. Achoo. No, I have to put on more clothes. It's so cold. I think this Lord Wei is very methodical. He should be able to find Wind Spirit's whereabouts soon. In the hall, Chu Qingyan poured a cup of tea for Xiao Su and said slowly. These words were not only for Big Ice Cube, but also for Shui Ling. During this time, Chu Qingyan could feel that Shui Ling had lost a lot of weight, and she seemed to have lost some of her vitality. Seeing this made Chu Qingyan's heart ache. Xiao Su glanced at Water Spirit and took a sip of tea. Although Miss Gongsun didn't say it, this Wei Yu's background is not small. Oh. Chu Qingyan's interest was piqued as she asked, "Tell me quickly." To be able to sit in such an important position as the capital magistrate at such a young age, either his family is powerful, or the king deliberately promoted him. However, he can only sit in this position if he is capable enough to convince the people. The capital magistrate was equivalent to the mayor of the modern capital. It was not only a high position but also involved many aspects. She loved to hear such things. She grabbed his sleeve and urged, "Continue, continue." Water Spirit and the others were also attracted by her master's words. Xiao Su touched her hand and continued. Judging from Miss Gongsuan's tone and Wei Yu's attitude just now, it can be seen that Wei Yu is Miss Gongsuan's subordinate, or rather, a trusted subordinate. Furthermore, the power and manpower in Wei Yu's hands should be far beyond his identity as a magistrate. How can you tell? Earlier, she had only paid attention to Wei Yu's beauty and neglected other aspects. She couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Xiao Su pointed to the person beside him. Hualing, you answer. Hualing didn't have much confidence in his heart, but after his master's reminder, his bold guess had some basis. Thus, he opened his mouth and replied, "When I was discussing with Lord Wei just now, this subordinate discovered something. It is not difficult for him to mobilize the troops in the capital city at will. Moreover, he doesn't need to report to Miss Gongsun, and can directly mobilize them. If it wasn't for the fact that his superiors trust him to a certain extent, he wouldn't have this kind of privilege." Water Spirit also added at this time. This subordinate also discovered something. This Lord Wei seems to have a spy in his hands because this subordinate discovered that he is very familiar with spying and other aspects. It can be seen that he is not as simple as he appears on the surface. Not bad. Xiao Su nodded in praise, very satisfied with the answers of his two subordinates. Chu Qingyan suddenly understood. So when she was admiring the beauty, she missed out on so many things. As expected, a pregnancy made her stupid for 3 years. The baby's in the belly. Mother, we babies won't take this blame. Hualing scratched his head at this time, a little confused. Master, since this Wei Yu has so much power and is quite capable, why was he sent to investigate Feng Ling's matter? Right now, the Sun Clan and Moon Clan are fighting, as well as the chaos in the Moon Clan. Shouldn't he be focusing on that? Isn't this using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? Everyone present also didn't understand Hualing's question. Xiao Su tapped his fingers lightly on the table and glanced at the people who walked in through the door. The corner of his mouth curled up. "I think you will have to ask Second Master about this." Only then did Xiao Yao return to his room and put on some clothes. There was still a smug smile on his face. Who knew that the moment he entered, he would receive pairs of sparkling eyes. He immediately stopped smiling and looked at everyone with a serious expression. "What's wrong?" Hualing immediately told him what everyone had just said. Then he asked with a face full of curiosity, "Second Master, tell me, why do you think Miss Gongsun arranged for such an important official like Lord Wei to follow us everywhere to look for people?" Hearing these people praise Wei Yu to the heavens, Xiao Yao was already dissatisfied. When he heard that it was related to the Ice Beauty, he couldn't help but think, could it be that the Ice Beauty wanted to see Wei Yu every day? So she arranged for him to be here. Thinking like this, his good mood from before disappeared with a whoosh. How is this Wei Yu that good? Are you all blind? Compared to this king, what kind of onion is he? Angering me to death. Xiao Yao threw a tantrum with his hands on his hips. His heart was very depressed and he didn't say anything else. He turned around and left, leaving behind a room full of confused spectators. Hualing was at a loss. Why did Second Master come so happily and leave in a huff? Did he say something to offend him? Water Spirit shrugged, expressing that she didn't understand either. Chu Qingyan seemed to understand something. She gave a soft laugh and said to the person beside her, "Is your Xiao family's jealousy so strange?" Xiao Su spread his hands. "I think only this fool is an exception." Chu Qingyan shook her head with a smile. Why did Gongsun Shui send Wei Yu over? The reason was very simple. she placed a lot of importance on them. In other words, they were placed in importance because of Xiao, so she would care about anything related to Xiao. However, she looked out the window and Xiao's angry figure just happened to flash by. She shook her head with a smile, but the two of them didn't seem to notice. Gongsun Shui was planning on finding Xiao during lunchtime, but another group of people came to find her. When she finished, another 2 hours had passed. She rubbed her eyes and felt a bit of a headache. After missing the appointment for so long, that fellow should be angry. Thinking of his angry appearance, it was actually quite fun. She couldn't think like this, she didn't have any sympathy at all. She put down the pen and walked to the door, planning on going to his yard. But she never thought that as soon as she walked out, she would see a figure casually leaning against a pillar in the hallway. Only when he saw her did he turn around. Xiao? She never thought that he would be here. I thought you would be busy until night time. He stretched out and walked over to her. She could hear the sadness in his voice. She raised her brows and wanted to say something, but he spoke first. You haven't eaten lunch yet, right? I haven't eaten either. What a coincidence, let's eat together. He naturally took her wrist and walked back into the study. When their skin touched, the warm feeling and gentle strength made Gongsun Shui lose her ability to speak as she was brought in by him. Chapter 1651. She only regained her senses after entering the study. His palm was slightly warm as he held her slightly cold wrist. She felt that their actions were a little too intimate. She thought about how to quietly pull her hand back without making him feel awkward. Just as she was thinking hard, her wrist was released by him. She also let out a sigh of relief. Xiao's back was facing her. He looked at his hand, then immediately rubbed it against his clothes. He had only boldly held the Ice Beauty's hand, and he was so nervous that he was sweating. Fortunately, she didn't notice. Thus, the two sat opposite each other with their own thoughts. At this time, there were already people setting the dishes. Only then did Gongsun Shui realize that he had brought so many people over. In a short while, the dishes were all served. She didn't touch her chopsticks. Instead, her eyes were filled with suspicion. These dishes were all made by the West Court chefs. West Court? East Court? Xiao didn't know which one at all. I asked Xiaofeng. She brought me there. He replied honestly. This made Gongsun Shui even more confused. Then how did you get them to listen to you? Not only did they cook, they even came to deliver food. She remembered that she had told them a long time ago that there was no need for the kitchen to deliver food without her orders. Xiao chuckled. Of course it depends on one's charisma. As he spoke, he even winked at her. Gongsun Shui was bewildered. Was this guy trying to seduce her? But that couldn't be right. The imperial chefs were all men. They couldn't have fallen for it. She didn't understand, but she also knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of this guy. Thus, she didn't ask anymore. She would ask Xiaofeng later. Actually, the truth was like this. Today, the West Court chef saw Master Xiaofeng bring in an unfamiliar, beautiful man, saying that he was going to prepare lunch for their sect master. There weren't many people who could make Master Xiaofeng treat them so politely. Moreover, this kind of bearing and elegance was not something an ordinary person could compare to. And this was the first time they saw a man by their sect master's side. Unsurprisingly, they thought that he was a pet boy. They thought that this person must be extremely loved by their sect master, which was why she allowed him to go around. Thus, they treated him even more attentively. Perhaps he would become their master in the future. Needless to say, they followed Xiao's orders. They did whatever Xiao told them to do, not to mention sending people to deliver food. Xiao didn't know the truth, and thought that he would be able to do well wherever he went. He was even more pleased with himself. Gongsun Shui was really hungry. After taking a few bites, she realized that no one else had touched the food on the table except her. She looked up at him and asked, "Why aren't you eating?" Xiao raised his injured hand and sighed. "My hand is weak. You eat first. Don't worry about me. It's better for one person to starve to death than for two people to starve to death." Gongsun Shui could not help but twitch her eyes when she heard him exaggerate. But in the end, she buried her head and finished her meal as quickly as possible. Xiao Yao saw that although she ate quickly, she ate elegantly. No matter how he looked at her, she looked good. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Soon Gong Shui was full. Aren't you going to eat more? Xiao Yao pushed the dishes in front of her. Gong Shui shook her head and put down her bowl. Then she took his bowl and put some food into his mouth. Xiao Yao had been planning this all along. He didn't expect her to take the initiative before he even opened his mouth. Thus, he happily opened his mouth to accept the Ice Beauty's food. It's been hard on you. After taking a bite, Xiao Yao smiled at her sincerely. Gong Shui snorted coldly in her heart. Wasn't this all part of his plan? He said that he didn't eat, then brought the food in front of her. He held his injured hand and sighed at her. Wasn't this all to tease her? Forget it, forget it. Seeing that he was injured, she wouldn't argue with him. However, the servants who were waiting on them saw that their high and mighty sect master was actually lowering himself to feed someone. And he was doing it so naturally. It was simply blinding, okay? Their wise and mighty sect master. Their sect master who was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. How could their sect master be such a gentle sect master in front of them? Who could tell them that all of this was not real? Xiao Yao was still picky as he ate. This fish has bones. That pork rib is not bad. I want to eat another piece. That soup is a bit greasy. I don't want it next time. Heavens, this person was already lucky enough to be served by sect master in his previous life. How dare he be so picky? Sect master, what are you doing? You don't have to pick on this untactful brat. Sob sob sob, what's wrong with this world? Give us back our cold and heartless sect master. Xiao Yao glanced at the servants standing beside him and snorted. Everything that happened in the kitchen and study today would soon spread out. This way, no one would dare to have any ideas about the Ice Beauty in the future. Indeed, this matter would spread far and wide like the wind. But it would be different from what Xiao Yao thought. Because he forgot one thing. In the Yu clan, Gong Shui was the one in charge. She was the king, the sky. So she could have many male pets. Even if it was the emperor, as long as she wanted. She could have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, and 3,000 beauties. So the impact of this matter was not that Gong Shui was taken, but that Xiao Yao was taken. No one dared to think about this person who was liked by Gong Shui. So the rumor quickly spread. Hey, have you heard? Our sect master seems to have taken a fancy to a common man. Hey, have you heard? Our Yu clan is going to have a happy occasion. Our sect master might be taking a concubine. Hey, have you guys heard? Our sect master has taken a fancy to a man. Who knows, we might have a little sect master in the future. That was how the rumor came about. But the 2 main characters who started this rumor knew nothing. At this moment, Xiao Yao was still being picky. This braised meat is not bad. You can eat more. You're too skinny. That green vegetable is not good. Ask the chef to improve it. Gong Shui felt that this person was so talkative during a meal. He could not stop for even a moment. She changed the spoon and scooped a big mouthful of rice into his mouth. When he swallowed and wanted to speak, she gave him another big mouthful. Thus, her ears were finally free of the ruckus. Although this meal was not over, it still went very quickly. When they finished eating, they realized that it had only taken an hour. Gong Shui asked the servants to clear away the leftovers and bring the medicine over. As she bandaged his wound, she said, "You don't have to specially come over in the future. I'll change the medicine for you." Xiao Yao propped his chin up and looked at her. Hearing this, he said, "It's okay. You're busy. I can cooperate with you. Besides, if I didn't know that you haven't eaten, I wouldn't have come over. I'll take care of the meals in the future." Gong Shui's fingers paused. She looked up at him. "Actually, you don't have to do this." Xiao Yao interrupted her with a smile. "Because I'm worried that you'll forget to eat and sleep. You don't have to worry about me. I know what I'm doing." At this moment in the cold winter, she seemed to see a sky full of peach blossoms in his eyes. Chapter 1652. It had to be said that the people sent by Gong Shui were very efficient. After giving the information to Wei Yu, there was news in less than 2 days. Wei Yu said to the people present, According to the information provided by Lady Water Spirit, we found a few people who said that they had seen this young master and Elder Su's people appear. Who is Elder Su? Water Spirit was so agitated that she almost shook him, but her remaining reason made her restrain herself. Wei Yu felt that this young lady was very scary, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He immediately explained, "This Elder Su is called Su Yu. He was originally an important minister in our clan, and also the grandfather of our sect master's cousin." Originally? Then now. Chu Qingyan grasped the key words in his words and asked. Wei Yu's mouth twitched, revealing a trace of mockery. This person is now a traitor of our Yu clan. He supported his own granddaughter to become the queen, betrayed the Yu clan, and has troops for himself. Could it be that traitor who previously occupied the other half of the Yu clan's territory? Chu Qingyan was surprised. Wei Yu smiled. I am ashamed to say that I have made a fool of myself. It is him. If they continued talking, they would be suspected of discussing other people's national affairs. Xiao Su said. Then what does Lord Wei need us to do now? Wei Yu hurriedly said. That's right. We traced to Elder Su's side, and the clues were cut off. This time, this lowly official came here to borrow your people. This lowly official discovered that in terms of tracking and investigation, our people are far inferior to yours. Xiao Su raised his hand. No problem. Water Spirit, you are in charge. Water Spirit could not ask for more, and immediately agreed. Wei Yu thanked her and said, as long as we can find clues from Su Yu's people, we should be able to find young Master Fengling's whereabouts. Water Spirit's eyes were slightly excited. I hope so. After chatting for a while, Wei Yu bid farewell. When he was about to leave, Wei Yu felt very strange. Although he did not know Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan's identities, he clearly felt that he was shorter in front of them. He had to be respectful when speaking and doing things, and they were even more dignified than the sect master. They had a habit of giving orders, and this was not something that ordinary people could raise. Could it be that they were nobles from some place? Wei Yu did not dare to think about it. So, as soon as Wei Yu left, the meeting hall became lively. Shui Ling nodded in agreement. We are too unfamiliar with this country and this place, so if we want to investigate anything, it will be very troublesome. We also have to worry about running into the intricate forces here. Even if we want to, we won't be able to. Huo Ling rubbed his chin and said, it's all thanks to Miss Gongsun. If we can find Feng Ling this time, she will be our great benefactor. But we only have a bit of information for now. Didn't we just hear about Su Yu's people's characters? If Feng Ling is related to them, I'm afraid he will be in trouble. Water Spirit's heart tightened, and her voice was filled with sadness. Chu Qingyan walked forward and held her hand. She comforted her and said, he managed to survive that disaster all those years ago. This proves that the heavens help the worthy. Don't worry too much. We will find him as soon as possible. Water Spirit's eyes turned red. She leaned on her shoulder and said with a sobbing voice, little princess. She understood this feeling all too well. Not knowing what had happened to her loved ones, whether they were alive or dead, it was a feeling of helplessness and grief that was difficult to describe. She patted Shui Ling's back gently. You should also find some time to rest. Don't strain yourself too much. If you find Feng Ling and you collapse, wouldn't Feng Ling be sad? Water Spirit immediately rubbed her eyes when she heard this. She gently nodded and said, this subordinate understands. Huo Ling watched Water Spirit's strong appearance from the side, and his heart sighed with pity. After all these years, he had personally seen her turn from a lively little girl who loved to laugh to a cold and lonely person. Then she turned into a pigeon feather horse lord who only knew how to use a smile to disguise herself. He hoped that they could find Feng Ling this time, and let her regain her past self. He looked at his master. His master's gaze was currently on the two people hugging each other. This should be his master's hope. Regarding Feng Ling's matter, the one who blamed himself the most should be his master. Not long after, Wei Yu sent someone over. Water Spirit did not stay any longer and brought her people along. On the way back, Chu Qingyan softly said to the person beside her, Big Ice Cube, is it good news? Feng Ling had not returned for a long time. Something must have happened, and no one dared to think of the worst. However, the closer she got to the truth, the more unsettled her heart became. Not only was she worried for Water Spirit, but she was also worried for this big ice cube who had imprisoned her in regret. Xiao reached out to hold her hand. His expression was firm. He will. Chu Qingyan turned back to look at him. Under his bright gaze, she nodded heavily. He will. Fengling will definitely return safely. No matter how big the storm is or how heavy the rain is, the sky will clear up after the storm. That's right, I haven't seen second brother the entire day. What is he busy with? Chu Qingyan suddenly thought. Xiao Su's lips curled into a strange smile. He's chasing someone. Gong Sun Shui only received the news of Wei Yu's arrival and departure a short while later. At this time, she was having dinner with Xiao Yao. Oh, to be precise, she was feeding Xiao Yao dinner. Actually, she could not understand. This person was so proficient in using his left and right hands to wield a sword, but when it came to using his left hand to eat, he either couldn't pick up the food or spilled the soup. He was worse than a 3-year-old. Xiao Yao was currently enjoying the bliss of being served by the Ice Beauty. Even if he knew what she was thinking, he would still nod happily. Yes, I'm worse than a 3-year-old now. I'm a baby who needs someone to take care of me. There's news of young Master Fengling. Are you very happy? Gong Sun Shui saw that he kept looking at her happily, and thought that it was because of this. How could Xiao Yao admit that he was happy because she was in front of him? Hence, he immediately nodded seriously. Yes, we came here to look for him. Gong Sun Shui nodded. Wei Yu is a smart and flexible person. He has always been reliable. I'm very relieved to leave this matter to him. He has never disappointed me. When Xiao Yao heard this name, especially when he heard the Ice Beauty praise him, he felt a little jealous. He crossed his arms and proudly said, This bowl of rice is cold. I don't want to eat it. Gong Sun Shui raised her eyebrows. Wasn't it still warm? However, she still got someone to change the bowl. Just as he finished changing, he said again, The food is cold too. Change it. Gong Sun Shui did not understand why he was so busy today. She waved her hand and asked the kitchen to send a new one. Xiao Yao looked at her reaction. The Ice Beauty was so obedient to him. He was immediately satisfied. As for Wei Yu and Wei Lei, go to the side. Chapter 1653. Although Xiao Yao was getting further and further away from being shameless when it came to chasing his wife, he would still occasionally grab his face and wear it. However, he who was living a leisurely life was also a little troubled. He was an idle person in North Korea. To put it simply, he was an unemployed vagrant. Every time he saw that the Ice Beauty had to deal with a basket of state affairs after taking care of him, he felt sorry for her. However, he could only take care of her body, pester her to eat during mealtimes, and prepare some soup for her. He once thought that he had become a good wife and mother. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he was frightened by himself. In any case, he was the lord of the country, second only to one person and above millions. How could he reverse his position? However, every time he saw her being at her wit's end, he silently threw away his face. Today, he prepared a bowl of snow pear soup for her, and placed it by her hand for nearly the time it took to brew a cup of tea. However, she didn't react at all. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. This person forgot the time when she was busy. However, he couldn't blame Gong Sun Shui. It was indeed because she had encountered a thorny problem that her subordinates couldn't do anything about. Moreover, she was also troubled by the memorial. At this time, a dissatisfied voice sounded in her ear. What's there to think about? First, raise the dam and stall for time, so that the people downstream can evacuate first. Then, send people to hurry up and dig a canal. I remember that there's a river nearby. When the time comes, just divert the water there. Alright, drink the soup quickly. It's already cold. You don't know how difficult it is for me to get people to find a pear in winter. Xiao Yao complained a lot, but when he looked up, he met the Ice Beauty's sparkling eyes. He immediately shut up. No way, what's wrong with the Ice Beauty? Why is she looking at me so strangely? It's as if she wants to eat me. Gong Sun Shui saw his expression and knew what her expression was, but she couldn't care less. She spoke quickly. Xiao Yao, how do you know this? I know this. Are you talking about snow pear stew? Xiao Yao touched his head. I asked about ethereal. I told him that you've been coughing recently, so he asked me to stew some pears. He said it's good for the lungs. That's not what I'm asking you. I mean, how do you know how to control floods? She had discussed this problem with the officials for the entire morning, but no one had a solution. They had thought that they could only evacuate the people and reduce the casualties. They had not thought of diverting the water to release the flood. It was simply too surprising. Xiao Yao replied without thinking. Isn't this the normal way to deal with it? Then the rich and powerful cargo owners will definitely not miss this opportunity to show their faces in order to curry favor with you. After all, the wool comes from the sheep's back. Building a bridge will only bring them benefits and no harm, and it will also increase their reputation. Isn't it just a bit of money? Why not do it? Moreover, as long as they all fork out a sum of money, you can write a few calligraphy pieces and praise them. You will definitely receive a lot of money. When Gong Xuanxue heard his answer, it was as if she had opened a door to another world. She had never thought of using this method to squeeze money out of the imperial court, but this was not the best solution at all. However, Xiao Yao was not done speaking. Also, didn't you say that the people are poor? Just directly let the officials in charge recruit the people to participate in the construction of the bridge, and pay them a certain amount of remuneration. It just so happens that it is winter now, and they don't have any crops, so they are idle at home. The government will provide 3 meals, and the people will not suffer from hunger and cold. Let them take this opportunity to earn some money to supplement their family, improve their lives, and get through this cold winter, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After saying so much, Xiao Yao was a little thirsty. Someone handed him a bowl, and he drank it without thinking. After drinking it, he realized that this was the pear soup prepared for the Ice Beauty. Why did you give it to me? This is brewed for you. Xiao Yao was a little regretful that he did not see clearly before taking it. But why was the Ice Beauty's eyes shining when she looked at him? Did something happen? It doesn't matter, I will let people brew it later. Gong Xuanxue waved her hand indifferently. She was more concerned about the background of the person in front of her. The country and the people's livelihood were easy to deal with. It was as if the problem in front of her was not a problem in front of him. She immediately said, I will test you again. Xiao Yao's face was sad. Again? But I want to find the kitchen to brew another bowl. Chapter 1654. 2 hours had passed, 4 hours had passed. Gong Xuanxue asked Xiao Yao about the pile of documents on the table. Unsurprisingly, Xiao Yao gave her the most appropriate and reasonable solutions. Regardless of whether it was dismissal from office, natural disasters, people's livelihood, or trade, he could give you a clear and logical explanation. Gong Xuanxue felt that the matter that had been giving her a headache for several days was solved in just a few words. It was simply too shocking. This person was simply a genius at governing a country. Even if she were in his position, she wouldn't be able to do better than him. Who exactly was he? Why did he have such ability to govern the world? Perhaps it was because Gong Xuanxue's gaze was completely different from usual. Xiao Yao was a little nervous. Did he say something wrong? He looked at the piles of documents and remembered that this was something that had been troubling her for several days. Was it because she, as the sect master, couldn't solve it, and he solved it so easily? Did it hurt her self-esteem? What should he do? This was a serious problem. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have said so much. Yes, it was nonsense. Actually, I'm very stupid and don't know anything. My grandfather even said that I'm not smart at all. He's right, even little Nkong is smarter than me. Xiao Yao wanted to cry but had no tears. He said a lot of things, but sadly found that the Ice Beauty's gaze on him was getting brighter and brighter. So scary. He wanted to say something to save her, but he heard someone clapping. He looked in the direction of the sound. Wasn't this the high priest? Why was he here? Wait, when did he come in? Sure enough, when he was with the Ice Beauty, he automatically blocked the outside world. This was a bad habit and had to be changed. Lan Si was looking for Gongsun Shui, but he didn't expect that Gongsun Shui would test Xiao Yao on national affairs. He originally felt that the sect master's actions were a little inappropriate and wanted to stop her, but after hearing Xiao Yao's answer, he was even more shocked than Gongsun Shui. He couldn't help but swallow his words. Lan Si put away his shocked expression and walked in front of Xiao Yao, sizing him up. The last time they had met in a hurry at the Xiao mansion, he hadn't had the chance to take a good look at this brat's appearance. Now that he saw him, he looked quite decent and was a good match for his sect master. After sizing him up, Lan Si asked, "Second young master Xiao, how do you know so much? This person must be here to check the household register." He was just short of asking about his identity. Xiao Yao doesn't like this Lan Si. Anyone who destroys his and the Ice Beauty's world is unforgivable. However, this person seemed to be the Ice Beauty's elder. "Forget it, I'll give him some face. I was influenced by what I saw and heard." He gave a vague answer. This was obviously a lie, but Gongsun Shui and Lan Si heard the words, "being influenced by what you see and hear." Then second young master Xiao can be considered a self-taught talent. Young and promising, very good. Lan Si nodded and praised. Xiao Yao's hair immediately stood on end. Didn't this person dislike him before? Why did he suddenly praise him? There was something fishy going on. Of the 36 stratagems, escape was the best strategy. He made a prompt decision and said to the Ice Beauty, "I'll get someone to make you a bowl of snow pear soup." He then turned to Lan Si and said, "Excuse me." Then, without waiting for the two to react, he disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Gongsun Shui also didn't expect the high priest to come. She had just witnessed the process of him scaring Xiao Yao away. At this time, she said lightly, "What brings the high priest here today?" Lan Si coughed lightly. This old one heard that the sect master has taken in a male pet. The outside world is abuzz with the news, so this old one came to take a look. Lan Si felt that his words were a little inappropriate. As the high priest, he had no right to ask. However, the sect master's relatives were all gone, and he was the only elder left who cared about her. He should help her check. Moreover, this person was actually from the Xiao family. When he heard the news, he was very opposed. The Xiao family had a relationship with the Japanese, so he immediately put down his work and rushed over. However, after meeting him today, his opinion had changed a little. However, when Gongsun Shui heard Lan Si's straightforward words, she didn't react for a moment. Her ears turned red, but fortunately, she lowered her head slightly to look at the document in her hand, and her hair fell down, so it wasn't noticed. Male pet. That person probably didn't know. If he knew with his arrogant personality, he would have thrown a tantrum long ago. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile. She asked in a normal tone, "It's just a rumor. When did the high priest believe in those rumors?" Lan Si smiled. "It can't be helped. The sect master has long reached the age of marriage, but she has been alone for so many years. Naturally, this old one has to be concerned." She spread her hands. "But this time, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint the high priest." Lan Si waved his hand. "That's not the case." Gongsun Shui was puzzled. "Oh, what does the high priest think?" Lan Si stroked his beard and said, "Sect master, this old one saw the performance of the Xiao family's second young master clearly. He is smart, flexible, and not constrained by the secular world. He is a rare talent. His words are not worse than the children of the aristocratic families. His appearance is outstanding, and his martial arts are also outstanding. I'm afraid that even the big families of the Yu family can't find such a good seedling. This old one thinks that the sect master should consider." Consider? Consider what? Invite him to the court? No, consider letting him into the harem and help you in the future. I see that he also cares a lot about the sect master. He will probably be happy to see it happen." Lan Si's words were like thunder, exploding in her ears. She was caught off guard, and it set off waves that reverberated in her heart for a long time. She was moved, but what followed after was heartache. Lan Si continued, "Sect master, you know that this old one is good at reading faces. This old one has already observed the Xiao family's second young master. He will be magnanimous and able to take on great responsibilities. He is a person with deep feelings and will definitely not let you down. He will also become your right-hand man. After saying that, Lan Si found that her face was a little pale. He couldn't help but ask with concern, "Sect Master, are you okay?" Gongsun Shui came back to her senses and shook her head. She raised her eyes, and her gaze was a little unfocused. "High Priest, you forgot that I don't have much time left." Hearing this, Lan Si was a little annoyed. "Girl, what nonsense are you saying? You are still young, and there is still plenty of time. There will always be a way to cure this illness. This old one has sent many people to find a doctor. Don't worry." Gongsun Shui knew that if she continued speaking, she would only make the high priest angry. She couldn't help but smile. Seeing that her face was not too good, Lan Si was not in the mood to continue speaking. He raised his hand and patted her shoulder. "Child, consider this old one's suggestion. Don't be so harsh on yourself." Looking at the high priest's departing figure, Gongsun Shui smiled bitterly. She already had one foot in the grave. How could she drag others down with her? Chapter 1655. 3 days had passed, and everything seemed to be calm and peaceful. The war between the Sun Clan and the Moon Clan had yet to break out, and the internal strife within the Moon Clan seemed to have subsided. However, the calmer things seemed on the surface, the more turbulent they were on the inside. It was just that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Wind Spirit's whereabouts were still under investigation, and there would occasionally be good news. Ever since Sima Jun and Ji Linyang had a heart-to-heart talk, the two of them were as close as one person. Now the most important thing for them was to wait for the birth of their child, so they didn't have much time to meddle in Xiao Su's affairs. Cheng Yanluo and Ethereal were as sweet as ever, talking about medicine and love. Father Chu and Mother Chu were lovey-dovey while fooling around with the retired emperor. This made the usually quiet temporary imperial residence a little livelier. And ever since Xiao Su said that day he began to bring his son by his side and teach him personally. Chu Qingyan would also watch from the side. On the other hand, Xiao Yao stayed by Gongsun Shui's side all day long. His injuries were gradually recovering, and he was fed until he was fair and plump. However, if there was any change compared to before, it would be that Gongsun Shui would often tell Xiao Yao some political affairs and listen to his answers. Xiao Yao didn't quite understand her actions because there were too many secrets involved. Some of them were known to no more than 3 people, but she handed them over to him without any worry. He didn't know if it was because she trusted him too much, or because she was confident that he wouldn't leak them out. He shouldn't have taken over, but seeing how busy she was, he quietly took over and helped her deal with it, thinking that it would be good to share some of her burden. One afternoon, Gongsun Shui put down the official documents in her hand and pinched her sore brows. Her gaze unconsciously fell on the person who was seriously working by the window. Everything seemed to be peaceful, without any worries. It made people think that it was quite good to live like this. But peace would always be broken. What would come would come. On this day, Wei Yu hurried into the temporary imperial residence and found Xiao Su and the others. "This official has found young Master Wind Spirit's whereabouts." These words attracted everyone's attention. "Tell me, where is he now? Is he safe? Is he injured?" Water Spirit immediately rushed forward and grabbed Wei Yu's clothes. She was so excited that she spoke incoherently. Water Spirit, calm down. Although Hualing was excited, he did not forget his status. He quickly pulled on Water Spirit. "Master and the others are still here." Xiao Su straightened up and said with a solemn expression, "Lord Wei, please speak frankly." Wei Yu was almost torn apart by Water Spirit's tug. He wondered how this delicate girl could be so strong. After he rescued his wrinkled clothes, he heard Xiao Su's words and hurriedly cupped his hands. This official found out that young Master Feng Ling appeared in Su Yu's residence. Although Su Yu betrayed the sect master and took everyone away from the capital, there is always a way out. This official found a servant of the Su family. He recognized Feng Ling's portrait and said that Su Yu took him away. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Wind Spirit's whereabouts had been found. This was the best news so far. However, why would Wind Spirit be related to Su Yu? This puzzled everyone. Water Spirit became anxious again. Did the servant say how he was doing? Was he willing to stay or was he forced to? Wei Yu shook his head awkwardly. I'm very sorry. The information that the servant could provide is limited. This official does not know how young Master Feng Ling is doing. Furthermore, this official did not find out the relationship between young Master Feng Ling and Su Yu. Once this official received the news, this official came to report to everyone. This official will shift the direction of the investigation to Luo City. Luo City? Where is that? Chu Qingyan was puzzled. Luo City is the city where Su Yu is located. However, because Su Yu controls a large territory in the southeast and Luo City is the central city, it will be difficult for this official to investigate. If the person was on their side, it would be easy for him to investigate. However, he did not expect Su Yu to be involved. He really did not know why Su Yu liked to cause trouble so much. It was obvious that these people in front of him were not to be trifled with. Xiao Su asked for advice. Lord Wei, please tell us about Su Yu and how many cities and power he has in his hands so that we can prepare. Wei Yu was in a difficult position. If it was about Su Yu as a person, it would be fine. However, it involved the power in Su Yu's hands and the cities he currently occupied. This was a military secret. The citizens outside were still being kept in the dark. He could not easily reveal it. What if it caused panic among the citizens? Because Su Yu knew that the reason for the rebellion was not legitimate, he did not raise the flag with great fanfare. He had already planted people in those cities before, so there was no need to break into the cities and occupy them. Therefore, in the eyes of those with discerning eyes, it looked like the situation was calm on the surface, but the ruler inside had changed. Su Yu's plan was to quietly kill Gong Swordsmanship and then replace her with Gong Sunfei. That was why he had bribed people from Flowing Cloud Pavilion to assassinate Gong Swordsmanship several times. However, in the end, Xiao Yao and the others had foiled his plans and did not succeed. One side deliberately concealed it, while the other side did not publicize it. Thus, only the court officials knew about the internal strife. There were rumors among the citizens, but not many people believed them. Lord Wei, there is no need to hide anything. Just tell me what you want to know. At this time, a voice came from outside the door. Everyone looked over and saw Gong Swordsmanship walk in with Xiao Yao beside her. When Wei Yu saw that his superior had spoken, he no longer hesitated. He told him everything about Su Yu's character and evil deeds. When everyone heard that this person was even more cruel and vicious than Consort Yu's Fu family, he was unforgivably evil. He was simply a malignant tumor of the country. They could not help but worry about Wind Spirit's situation. If he had followed Su Yu of his own accord, then would he have been involved in all these bad things? If he had been forced, then how had he been all these years? Had he been living a difficult life, or no one dared to think any further? Because no matter what the result was, it was not what they wanted to see. Water Spirit turned and knelt in front of her master. She gritted her teeth and said with red eyes, Master, this subordinate requests permission to go to Luocheng. Please allow it. She could not stand this feeling of unease. She wanted to find him right now. She was afraid that he would suffer. Afraid that he would suffer. She was afraid of everything. She could not wait a moment longer. No matter what he became, he would still be the person she loved the most. Hualing followed her and knelt down. Master, this subordinate also requests permission. Ethereal also knelt down. This subordinate also requests permission. They had grown up together. They had taken care of each other wholeheartedly, and had gone through life and death together. They were already closer than brothers. Now that they heard this news, how could they sit still? Xiao Su looked at the people kneeling before him. His eyes were as deep as the sea. Do you think I am not worried about Wind Spirit? The three of them raised their heads to look at him. Their eyes were filled with tears. Master, go and prepare. We will set off in 2 hours. Yes. The three of them cried out in unison. Chapter 1656. With Xiao Su's order, everyone began to move. The entire courtyard became lively. Gong Sunshui looked at the busy people, and then looked at Xiao Yao who was beside her. There was a hint of struggle in her eyes, a hint of reluctance, and a hint of nostalgia, but no one noticed it. Xiao was thinking about what the ice beauty had asked him about the irrigation works when she suddenly stopped and turned around to look at him. Before he could recover from his thoughts, he heard her say, "Xiao, you don't need to think about those things anymore. I'm very grateful for your help these past few days. I wish you a smooth journey. I still have some urgent matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first." Without waiting for him to reply, Xiao turned around and left, as if she really was in a hurry. Xiao calmed himself down. She had already reached the intersection in front, and there was no time to chase after her. Seeing her hurried footsteps, he rubbed his chin. Did she think that he was going to follow his royal brother to find Feng Ling, and would never come back? He raised his eyebrows. After thinking it through, a trace of a smile flashed in his eyes. So the ice beauty was reluctant to part with him? It seemed like the ice beauty wasn't as cold as she looked. His battles these past few days were still effective. She had already left, so he should go find his royal brother. Xiao was currently explaining something to Hualing. When he saw him walk over with light steps and a happy mood, he revealed a rare look of surprise. "What are you so happy about?" Hearing his royal brother's question, Xiao couldn't help rubbing his face. "Was it that obvious?" Hualing interrupted with a smile. "It's all written on your face." Xiao immediately straightened his face when he heard this, but he couldn't hide his happy mood, and his lips couldn't help curling up. Xiao saw him like this and thought about how he was with Xiao just now. He knew what was going on and didn't ask any more. After Xiao's joy passed, he thought about the business he came to find him for and calmed himself down. "Royal brother, I'm afraid I can't follow you this time." Xiao raised his eyebrows. "You want to stay here?" Xiao chuckled. "Royal brother, you really are smart. You almost wrote it on your face," Xiao said indifferently. Xiao didn't touch his face this time. Instead, he rubbed his hands and said in a negotiating tone, "Anyway, you have a lot of people and I can't help. So it doesn't make a difference whether I'm here or not. But it's different here. I can help, so I'll stay here for the time being." Xiao gave a rare smile. "Since when have I ever restricted your freedom? If there's anything you want to do, just do it. You don't have to ask for my permission." Xiao said embarrassedly. "We came out together, so I have to tell you. Otherwise, Grandpa Emperor will accuse me of being a deserter." Xiao shook his head. "Not necessarily. Maybe he'll be happier than anyone else if he knows that you're not leaving, but..." Hearing these two buts, Xiao's heart skipped a beat. What he worried about the most was that every time his brother said something wrong. But what? Xiao's smile disappeared, and he looked at his younger brother with a serious expression. "You've been here for so many days. You should know the current situation of the Yu clan, and how many dangers Gongshan is in. If you're going to stay here, I hope that you'll consider everything carefully. Don't let yourself fall into a trap. Also, I'll leave some people with you to protect your safety." Hearing his brother's words, Xiao was very touched. Others said that his brother was cold and cold-blooded, but only those close to him knew how affectionate and warm-hearted his brother was. To have such a brother, he felt that it was the blessing of his life. "Royal brother, don't worry. I'm not an impulsive and irrational person. We grew up in the imperial family, and we know best how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. I'm still capable of that. But you don't have to leave anyone for me. It's more convenient for me to be alone. But on your side, if you need people more than me, you can leave them for yourselves." Xiao nodded. After giving his instructions, he looked at his younger brother with a faint smile. "Royal brother, why are you looking at me like that? I'm scared." As soon as Xiao met his gaze, he immediately pulled himself away from being touched and hugged his arms, his entire body cold. Every time his brother looked at him like that, he had a bad premonition. This was because he remembered that he had been tricked by his brother to attend morning court. From then on, the carefree life of sleeping until late in the morning had left him. Xiao saw that he was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow and snorted. "In the past, when I asked you to handle some court matters, you'd make all sorts of excuses. It was as if I wanted your life, so I had to think of some benefits for you. But now you're volunteering yourself, and you're so busy that your feet don't even touch the ground. You're really my good younger brother." The words "good younger brother" made Xiao shiver. However, he was indeed in the wrong in this matter. He immediately smiled and said, "Royal brother, it's all thanks to your nurturing over the past few years. Otherwise, how could I have helped the ice beauty? So I still have to thank you." Xiao chuckled. Xiao felt a headache coming on. This laugh made his heart tremble. "Royal brother, it's better if you don't laugh. I can't stand it." Xiao looked at him coldly. "You're useless." His brother was finally normal. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "It's not like you don't know my personality. I don't have much ambition. I'll just muddle along and enjoy myself. So it doesn't matter if I'm useless or not. What's important is that I'm happy and comfortable." Xiao looked at him. "Do you think you'll be comfortable here?" "I don't think so." Xiao laughed. "I'm used to going with the flow." Xiao ignored his hypocrisy and said, "Take care of yourself. If there's anything, contact Pigeon Feather." Xiao immediately stood at attention. "Understood." Xiao was speechless at his playful actions. After Xiao left, Xiao was about to turn around when he heard a familiar voice. "Second brother, you're not coming with us?" He lowered his head to look at the source of the sound. His little fellow was standing under the tree, looking at him. Today, she was wearing a scarlet-red cloak with white fur. She looked cute and lovable, and it was extremely heartwarming. He immediately walked over and touched her hand. It was a little cold, so he couldn't help but put it in his palm to warm it up for her. "Isn't it all within your expectations?" Xiao chuckled softly. Feeling the warmth from his large hand, Chu Qingyan mischievously clasped her fingers with his and played with them. She looked up and smiled sweetly at him. Second brother and Miss Gongsun have been seeing each other quite frequently recently. It's not surprising at all that he's staying. It seems that second brother has really made up his mind. And what do you think? Chu Qingyan tilted her head and smiled. "What can I think? I just hope that second brother can chase the beauty of his dreams soon." Xiao smiled and pinched her nose. "You mischievous spirit." Chu Qingyan made a face at him. "Let's go. We should set off." NN. Chapter 1657. Gongsu and Xue sat in the study, holding a booklet in her hand. After leaving Xiaosu's courtyard, she had been sitting like this for more than an hour. The booklet was still the same. Not a single page had been flipped. Her gaze fell on the booklet, but she didn't know where her mind wandered off to. These days, Xiao had been accompanying her. If he wasn't urging her to eat, he would be reviewing the booklets with her. In the past, it was a matter of one person. Now that he was here, she didn't feel that it was a hindrance. Instead, she felt that she was no longer alone. Moreover, he was a very smart person. He knew when to disturb her and when not to disturb her. Therefore, the two of them got along very well. In the Yu clan, if everyone didn't respect her, they wanted to harm her. Very few people could sit together with her. Without the restrictions of status, without the prejudice of the secular world, they could sit together from sunrise to sunset. However, from now on, she might have to return to how she was before he came. She would have to guard this lonely place alone for the rest of her life. Even though she clearly told herself that this was the end, she still felt a little reluctant. In the future, no one would tell her that she had to eat her 3 meals on time. In the future, no one would prepare desserts or flower tea for her. In the future, no one would chatter endlessly and liven up her surroundings. It turned out that in such a short time, he had already infiltrated her life and affected her habits. Unknowingly, she looked at the booklet in her hand. Today she wasn't efficient at all. She hadn't even flipped a single page. She couldn't continue like this. She had to go back to square one. She put down the booklet and rubbed her forehead. She reached out for the teacup on the table. She wanted to drink a mouthful of tea to soothe her throat and calm her heart. She didn't raise her head, so she didn't notice that someone had put the teacup in her hand. She took the teacup and directly opened the lid to take a sip. Then someone helped her take the teacup away and put it back. This action was very natural. It was only when she was about to pick up the brush to review the booklet again that she realized something was wrong. She suddenly raised her head and realized that the person who should have left was standing by her table. He was playing with the pearl that had just been delivered. You haven't left yet? She felt that she had lost her composure, so she calmed herself down and asked as if nothing had happened. Xiao held the pearl against the sunlight outside, and turned to look at her. He still had that annoying smile on his face. You haven't left yet. The car is waiting at the door. Hearing this, Xiao felt a little disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face. She asked calmly, "Then what are you doing here?" As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao revealed a disappointed and hurt expression. He put down the pearl, as if the beautiful pearl could no longer attract his attention. His shoulders drooped as he looked at her, and his tone was very depressed. Could it be that you want me to leave so badly? I just thought that since I've been here with you for a while, even if I'm leaving, I should come and tell you. I didn't expect you to want to drive me away. Gong Sunshui couldn't refute his accusation. Words that had been spoken were like water that had been poured out. She could only appease him properly. Otherwise, this person would definitely not forgive her. I didn't mean that. Don't think too much about it. I just thought that you should be preparing to leave now. Why are you here? When Xiao heard this, he stole a glance at her. Then let me ask you, do you really want me to leave? As soon as he said this, Gong Sunshui was stunned. It could be said that she was at a loss for words. The answer to this question was obvious, but she didn't know how to tell him what she meant. He was already leaving. She didn't want to add to his burden. Since the result couldn't be changed, why should she tell him the truth? You're still not leaving? Aren't you afraid that your big brother and the others will get anxious from waiting? She avoided the topic. Her evasive gaze and shoddy ability to change the topic. He didn't need to answer to know what she was really thinking. Xiao's heart was bursting with joy. These days of companionship had not been wasted. The ice beauty had obviously started to take him seriously, but he still had to work harder. No hurry. My big brother and the others still have to pack up. I still have time to say goodbye to you. Gong Sunshui nodded. Actually, she hoped that he wouldn't appear again, because she was afraid that she would be even more reluctant to part with him. She didn't know what role he played in her life, but in these past few days, he had at least become her friend. Apart from her parents and master, he was the most important person to her. So she hoped that in the future he would be safe, free and happy. Xiao's eyes flashed. I'm about to leave. Why are you still so cold and indifferent? Don't you have anything to say to me? He wanted to take this opportunity to listen to the ice beauty's innermost thoughts. Be careful on the road. There were many things she wanted to say, but at this moment, she could only say this one sentence. Xiao put his hands on the table and leaned closer to her. Their eyes met, and his voice was low, with a bewitching gentleness. Nothing else? He suddenly approached her, leaving her with no place to retreat. She could only watch as he got closer and closer to her. At this moment, she couldn't hear anything other than her own heartbeat. She also wanted to say, if possible, could you stay? There are so many people looking for wind spirit, I don't need you. But I don't have anyone by my side. I need you more than anyone else. However, just as these words were about to rush to her throat, she heard a knock on the door, followed by a report from outside. Reporting to Sect Master, the Xiao family has left. Left? Gong Sunshui's heart thumped. She narrowed her eyes and looked at a certain someone who was about to stand up and leave. Xiao, what's going on? Xiao wanted to hide it for a while, but who knew that someone would come out of nowhere and ruin his plan? He coughed lightly and said, It's just like what you heard. As soon as the words left her mouth, she understood. You tricked me. The other party gave her a comforting smile. Gong Sunshui said coldly, Xiao, how dare you? I just wanted to joke with you and see your reaction. Xiao immediately explained. Hee, who would joke about such things? Xiao felt wronged. I just wanted to know if you're starting to see me as a friend, and if you can't bear to part with me. That's all. Gong Sunshui looked at him and was furious. She was tricked by him just now. If she didn't feel bad, how could she be fooled by him? Good, very good. Since that's the case, I'll let you know what a real reaction is. As soon as Gong Sunshui said this, Xiao had a bad feeling. As expected. Men, help me send second young master Xiao to first young master Xiao. Say that they left in a hurry and left second young master Xiao here. Send him to them now. Xiao Yao was stunned when he heard this. She could do this? He hadn't seen her for half a day, and the ice beauty had turned evil. Chapter 1658. As soon as Gongsun Shui finished speaking, someone came in. Second young master Xiao, this way please. Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. The ice beauty was serious. He hurriedly waved his hand to dismiss the attendant. He put away the smugness on his face and turned to face the ice beauty. He pleaded. I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. Joking? Did he know that from just now, her mood had been fluctuating between heaven and hell, up and down? She was secretly conflicted and upset, but he came to tell her that it was just a small joke. Even someone who was not angry usually had the urge to tear him apart. Gongsun Shui smiled coldly, not wanting to talk to him. However, the disappointment and reluctance in her heart when she knew that he was going to leave had disappeared. At this moment, her heart was more relaxed and glad that this person did not leave her. Thus, she picked up the booklet and began to read it. After so long and wasting so much time, she had to finish reading all the booklets. Xiao Yao saw that she was starting to deal with work and was not going to talk to him. He felt that something was wrong. This was the rhythm of the ice beauty's anger. If he did not calm her down quickly, she would probably not talk to him for the whole day. Don't be angry. I was wrong, okay? He leaned in front of her and said very sincerely. Gongsun Shui looked up and saw the sincerity in his bright eyes. It was like the twinkling stars in the sky, causing the depression in her heart to dissipate. Give me a reason. Why did you stay? This was what she did not understand, so from the beginning, she did not think that he would stay. She took this opportunity to ask him. Seeing that she was willing to talk to him, Xiao Yao's lips curled up. However, he quickly suppressed it and put on a miserable look. He held his right hand with his left hand and said, You see, my injuries are not healed yet. I'm so weak. How can I withstand a long journey? What if my injuries get worse? So for safety's sake, I won't go with them. Gongsun Shui's eyes twitched. This answer was really Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao saw that she did not speak and felt uncertain. He then added, So, don't mind my joke just now. I'm still injured. Gongsun Shui snorted coldly in her heart. She felt that she could not let him off so easily. Otherwise, he would not learn his lesson. Since that's the case, you can go and rest. In the future, just stay in your room and recuperate. You don't have to come here, otherwise, you won't be able to recover well. Xiao Yao's eyes widened. This was not the result he wanted. If he couldn't come here in the future, then what was the point of him staying here? He had a headache. In the past, he was the one who made the ice beauty speechless. Now, the tables had turned. Who asked him to be in the wrong? It's just that my hand hasn't fully recovered. It's not that I can't walk. I know I was wrong. Why don't I accept the punishment? What do you think will help you vent your anger? Finally, Gongsun Shui's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile when she heard him say that. Her face was still cold and indifferent, which made Xiao Yao feel uncertain. When he was racking his brains to think of something to say, she opened her mouth. To teach you a lesson, you can eat by yourself in the future. Don't expect me to feed you. But the injury on my hand is still very serious. Xiao Yao put on an aggrieved look. Eating was the happiest time of his life because the ice beauty was gentle at that time. No matter how picky he was, she would silently feed him. If this benefit was gone, he would feel that the sky was dark. Is that so? Weren't you writing with your right hand a few days ago? Since you can write, eating shouldn't be a problem. Gongsun Shui was unmoved. If she didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't remember. Xiao Yao finally knew what it meant to shoot oneself in the foot. Previously, he was so pleased with himself that he forgot that he was injured. It was a moment of carelessness. He stole a glance at her and was about to say something when he heard her say, No bargaining. Otherwise, you can go back to your room to recuperate. You can only come back when you're fully recovered. If he went back to his room, wouldn't he not be able to see her? Xiao Yao weighed the pros and cons and made a prompt decision. I'll agree to anything you say, but I want to stay here with you. Gongsun Shui smiled in a place where he couldn't see. When it was time for dinner, Xiao grabbed his bowl and looked at her pitifully. Gong Shui focused on eating and pretended not to see him. Xiao knew that these methods were useless. He could only bitterly eat by himself. When there was no one around, Xiao hit his right hand and muttered, "Go ahead, go ahead." Gong Shui looked at his back and shook her head as she laughed. She didn't know when it started, but this person could easily stir up her emotions. This was a feeling she had never experienced since she grew up. At this moment, the words he said earlier today echoed in her mind. He wanted to stay here with her. A warm current welled up in her heart. It was so warm that it made her feel warm all over on this winter day. Let's just leave it like this. Let her be willful for once in her last moments and grab onto that little bit of warmth. 5 days later, Chu Qingyan and the others arrived at Luocheng. The road was heavily guarded. If Wei Yu hadn't sent people to establish relations with them early on, it would probably take a few more days. When they entered the city, there were soldiers patrolling the streets. It was obvious that the people here were living in fear. They found an inn to stay in. After washing off the dust from the journey, they gathered in Chu Qingyan's room. "Master, Lord Wei provided us with a map of Su Yu's manor in Luocheng." Water Spirit handed over the map that Wei Yu's subordinates had sent over when they just entered the city. Xiao Su took it and glanced at it, then handed it back to Water Spirit. "Study the map tonight. Send people to inquire about Su Yu and the others in the city, as well as the situation of the manor's guards changing shifts. Tomorrow night, investigate the Su manor." Yes. Water Spirit accepted the order and immediately went down. Hualing waited by the side for orders. Hualing increased the security. "This Luocheng is not peaceful," Xiao Su said with a stern face. Hualing immediately nodded. When they entered the city just now, they found that the soldiers here could casually beat and scold the people, burn and rob the shops. It could be seen that these soldiers guarding the city had no integrity at all. They were not like the regular guards of the people. It would be more appropriate to call them bandits. So they had to increase the security. Otherwise, if the young princess was attacked by these bandits, they would not be able to absolve themselves from the blame even if they died 10,000 times. Hualing and the others went down. Only Xiao Su's family of 3 was left in the room. At this time, Chu Qingyan felt her clothes being tugged. She lowered her head and saw her son looking at her with watery eyes. "Mother, Bai Yutong and the others have turned black." He pointed to the side as he spoke. At this time, the few squatting at the door walked in with drooping heads. Chu Qingyan then saw that their snow-white fur had turned black. Xiao Su saw this scene while drinking tea and explained faintly, "The snow wolves were too obvious, so I had Ethereal dye them black." Chu Qingyan thought that was true. The soldiers here were too barbaric and overbearing. Maybe they would be jealous and want to snatch the glutinous rice balls when they saw them, causing unnecessary trouble. However, the Wolf King turned into a big dog. This blow, Bai Yutong and the others glared at Xiao Su. Online translation in wolf language. "We don't want to be dogs. Quickly return the white fur to us." Chapter 1659. Although Wei Yu provided quite a few people, Water Spirit and the others were still better at gathering information. So on the first night they arrived in Luo City, Xiaolai cavalry began to get busy. The next day, Chu Qingyan asked expectantly, "How is it? Did Su Yu find Wind Spirit's whereabouts?" Hualing's expression darkened slightly. "We found Su Yu's residence and asked around, but we couldn't find Wind Spirit's whereabouts. We asked the servants of the Su residence, but they all said that there is no such person as Wind Spirit in the residence. They also saw his portrait, but they didn't see him." "How could that be? Didn't they say that Wind Spirit appeared in the Su residence before?" Chu Qingyan's face was filled with disappointment. Hualing shook his head. "This subordinate isn't too sure either. From last night until today, the only news I received was that no one had seen him, and no one had heard of him. It was as if this person had disappeared from the face of the earth, and all news was cut off." Xiao Su's eyes darkened. "We're only here for the first day, so there's no need to rush. Search slowly. Wait and see what news Water Spirit has. Speak of the devil, and he will appear." Water Spirit flew through the door, her face filled with disappointment. Everyone knew the result with a single look. This subordinate doesn't have any news. She looked at Hualing after saying that. Hualing shook his head at her, and her expression instantly dimmed. Chu Qingyan saw this and immediately cheered her on. Water Spirit, His Highness said just now that we can't rush to find him. We have to take it slow. It's been 10 years, so what if we wait a few more days? We promise that as long as Wind Spirit is still in this city, even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, we will find him. Water Spirit nodded heavily. Xiao Su glanced at the two's tired expressions and said, since it's like this, the plan to investigate the Su residence at night will not change. You two go rest first, and recharge your energy for tonight. Water Spirit and Hualing wanted to say that they didn't need to rest and could continue investigating, but with a glance from Xiao Su, they immediately shut up and went down without daring to delay. Chu Qingyan looked at the backs of the two of them as they left, her heart aching for them. Ever since they left Bright Jade City, she had yet to see them rest properly. They were constantly on the move, as if they didn't know what fatigue was. At this moment, she turned her head and happened to see Big Ice Cube frowning, his eyes cold. She couldn't help but reach out her hand and caress his forehead, smoothing out the creases on it. You're so young. Why are you always frowning? Smiling makes you 10 years younger. Xiao Su relaxed his brows following her gentle movements. He pulled down her hand and held it in his palm. He smiled helplessly at her. I'm a little annoyed. Are you worried about the wind spirits? Chu Qingyan leaned her head on his arm and hugged his waist with both hands. She was very dependent on him. She had gradually become addicted to this action over the past few months. Amen. Xiao Su lowered his head and kissed her hair. Then he gently stroked her hair and nodded. The wind spirits have disappeared for 10 years. It's been too long, so long that I can't guarantee that when I see him again, he'll still be the same as before. In the Battle of Ci Shui Slope, the entire army was wiped out. Only he has news, but no one knows what he went through in the past 10 years. She raised her head to look at him. You're worried that you won't be able to give Water Spirit a perfect wind spirit, right? Xiao Su was silent for a while before slowly nodding. If that's the case, I don't know if Water Spirit will collapse. The two of them are my most trusted companions. They've been by my side for many years, through wind and rain. No matter who it is, I don't want them to be hurt. He had never said these words to anyone, but he knew that this little fellow was not an outsider and could share his thoughts with her. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but hug his arm. These past few days, she knew that he hadn't slept well, but since he didn't say anything, she didn't ask. After so many years of tacit understanding, she knew that when it was time to say it, he would tell her. Her heart felt a slight stab of pain. It was incomparably painful, but this kind of thing, there was no way to comfort him. It was a fact that the wind spirits had disappeared for 10 years. It was also a fact that Water Spirit deeply loved the wind spirits. If the heavens pitied them and allowed them to reunite, but if this reunion was exchanged for great suffering, it would probably become a tragedy in their lives. She could understand the Big Ice Cube's worries. If such a thing really happened, then he would have to bear a great deal of self-blame and guilt. Big Ice Cube, don't think too much. Maybe it won't be as bad as we think. She tightly hugged his arm. Her eyes were slightly wet, but her tone was soft and gentle. Xiao Su hugged her and sighed softly. I hope so. If words couldn't comfort him, then he could only accompany him. In the dead of night, Xiao Lai returned to report on his mission. He had searched the Su estate in the night and returned without any results. Could it be that the information from Wei Yu's side was wrong? Hualing pulled down the mask on his face full of doubt. Water Spirit tightly pursed her lips. She also didn't know what was going on. Xiao Su narrowed his eyes. Have you searched everywhere? Hualing wanted to nod, but then he hesitated before saying, We've searched all the courtyards and rooms. Water Spirit continued, We've searched all the rooms on the surface, but we haven't found any secret passages or hidden places yet. However, for Su Yu to be able to sit in this position, other than being vicious and merciless, he is also a cautious person. In the capital city's estate, there are at least 2 secret passages and 3 secret rooms. Here, if there isn't a secret room or passage in the estate, then it doesn't make sense. Xiao Su's face sunk. Continue the investigation. We'll search the Su estate again tomorrow night. Wei Yu's clues all point here, so it shouldn't be without reason. Wind Spirit's whereabouts must be related to Su Yu. If we still haven't found anything by tomorrow night, continue the search until we find some clues. This was because no one knew what the relationship between Wind Spirit and Su Yu was. Otherwise, according to Xiao Lai Cavalry's usual style, they would directly capture Su Yu and the people around him and interrogate them. However, the relationship between the Sun Moon clan and Su Yu was now tense, and Su Yu and Jin Xian were mortal enemies. They couldn't reveal their identities and alert the enemy, which could also cause trouble for Jin Xian. That was why they had been investigating in the dark all this time. This subordinate obeys. Water Spirit and Hualing stood upright as they received the order. There was no news for 3 days. On the 4th day, Hualing hurried back. After he gasped for breath, he quickly said, "Master, this subordinate has found Feng Ling's whereabouts." Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan looked at him in surprise. "Where?" Hualing took a deep breath and said in one breath, "This subordinate has investigated the people who are closely related to Su Yu these past 2 days. One of them is his niece, Gongsun Fei, who is also sect master Gongsuan's cousin. This subordinate found out that a few days ago, someone saw Wind Spirit in Gongsun Fei's estate. Although the servant said that he was a little far away, he was still able to recognize him." Gongsun Fei? Chu Qingyan looked at the person beside her in surprise. How did Wind Spirit get involved with Gongsun Fei? Chapter 1660. The name Gongsun Fei. They had heard quite a few rumors about her in the palace. Although this person was Gongsun Shue's cousin, her behavior was completely different from the calm and steady Gongsun Shue. She had a fierce personality, but she did not have a head for politics. Simply put, she was all brawn and no brains, so she was easily manipulated by others. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that this person liked men very much. Although she was the same age as Gongsun Shue, she was different from Gongsun Shue's empty harem. After this person reached marriageable age, she began to use her status to search for beautiful men. Whenever she went out, there would be at least 3 to 5 male attendants accompanying her. Wherever she went, there would be good wine and beautiful men. It wasn't as if she had never tried to steal men from commoners before. Even if she had her eyes on some little fresh meat from the civil and military officials, she would still steal them. It was said that many people were angry at her, but did not dare say anything. In Chu Qingyan's impression, this person was just like the second generation of the royal family. She relied on her power to commit all kinds of crimes, but this person was a woman. So when she heard that she was related to Wind Spirit, Chu Qingyan's first thought was that this person wouldn't have taken a liking to Wind Spirit's beauty, right? This was because in the fierce cavalry, the 6 spirits of metal, wood, fire, earth, wind, and space were all top-notch handsome men. If they weren't hidden behind the scenes, they would have swept away all those young masters. Among the 6 spirits, Wind Spirit was the strongest and also the most handsome, so Chu Qingyan could not be blamed for being worried. Does Water Spirit know about this matter? Hualing shook his head and quietly said, With Gongsun Fei's bad reputation, how could this subordinate dare let her know about this matter first? Chu Qingyan nodded. That's true. If it was her, no matter if Gongsun Fei did anything or not, she would not be able to hold herself back and directly ask for her. How could she care about the bigger picture, or alerting the enemy? No one can touch my people. Who cares about the consequences? They didn't know where Wind Spirit was before, but now that they knew he was related to this infamous person, Chu Qingyan and Fire Spirit couldn't sit still. They both looked at the pillar in front of them. Xiao Su received their earnest, pleading eyes. He thought for a while and said with a comforting tone, This matter hasn't been decided yet. Don't scare yourself. The two of them calmed down a little. Xiao Su said to Hualing, Don't tell Water Spirit about this for now. Just send people to investigate the people around Gongsun Fei. It would be best if they can infiltrate her palace and then investigate whether Wind Spirit is really in her palace. Ling immediately nodded. This subordinate understands. Without any concrete information, I will not let Water Spirit know about this matter. If he ended up scaring himself in the end, wouldn't the losses outweigh the gains? Xiao Su continued. The investigation of the Su estate cannot be stopped. Continue to investigate double insurance. After receiving the order, Ling immediately went to carry it out. Only Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su were left in the room. Xiao Su saw that she was still thinking about this matter, and couldn't help reaching out to pull her into his embrace. These days, her body had become a bit heavy and her mind was a bit lacking. He thought about how he had been busy with Wind Spirit and neglected her. He couldn't help blaming himself as he softly said, "Don't think too much. Didn't you just say you were tired? Go rest on the couch for a bit." In fact, she was really forcing herself to stay awake. At this moment, listening to Big Ice Block's deep and pleasant voice was like a lullaby to her, causing her to feel sleepy, and she couldn't help but yawn, but she still tried to keep her eyelids open and said, "Big Ice Block, I hope that the Water Spirit and the Wind Spirit can be happy and smooth, without any twists and turns." Xiao Su gently patted her back, and his eyes were as deep as the sea. "They will. Even if they don't, I will do my best to create one for them." Hearing him say that, Chu Qingyan was relieved and gradually closed her eyes. Hearing the steady breathing of the person in his embrace, Xiao Su bent down and carried her horizontally. He walked softly to the couch and put her down. After covering her with the blanket, Xiao Su sat by the bed and brushed away the fine strands of hair on her forehead as he quietly watched over her. In this period of time, he had spent too little time with her. Once the matter with Wind Spirit was settled, he would put all his attention on her and Kong Kong. There was a fluctuation in the air and Xiao Su's ears twitched. He turned his head and accurately caught the little figure who was stumbling over the threshold. Xiao Su's furrowed brows immediately loosened. Seeing the little figure panting as he ran in front of him, his eyes were filled with warmth. Little Kong Kong was just about to call out to his father, but seeing that his mother was already asleep, he immediately greeted in a small voice, "Daddy, baby is here." Xiao Su's lips curled up. Secretly eating pastries again? Little Kong Kong's eyes widened, and he immediately covered his mouth in shock. "Father, how did you know? Don't tell me you have Sun Wukong's fiery golden eyes?" Xiao Su smiled. Wasn't it because he secretly ate without wiping his mouth? His face was covered in crumbs. Because his son was still young, the little fellow had a strict diet. Usually, he could not eat more than 3 pieces of pastries. He had already finished his portion this morning. Now that there were crumbs on his face, he could only say that he secretly ate them. He took his son's hand and walked to the basin. He wrung out a clean cloth and personally wiped his face. Little Kong Kong did not hear his father's reply, and thought that his father was angry. He anxiously confessed, "Baby secretly ate 2 pieces at grandfather's place today." He stuck out 2 fingers and stuck out his tongue. "Daddy, don't be angry. Baby will eat less in the future. I won't secretly eat anymore." Xiao Su helped him wipe his hands and said, "Do you know why your mother doesn't let you eat more pastries? Is it because you can't afford them?" Hearing this, little Kong Kong puffed up his cheeks and seemed to have realized something. He replied softly, "No, it's because baby is young. Mother said that if a child eats too much sweets, his teeth will spoil. Mother is doing it for baby's good. That's why baby doesn't eat more." Xiao Su retracted his hand and placed the cloth beside the basin. He stood up straight with his hands behind his back and said to him seriously, "You know the reason, so the one you should apologize to is not me, but your mother. You have failed to live up to her trust." Little Kong Kong nodded as if he understood. Baby understands. When mother wakes up, baby will apologize to her. Baby will not eat more pastries in the future. Baby will be obedient in the future. Xiao Su revealed a gentle smile and carried him up. "Your mother is resting. Let's go out and not disturb her." Little Kong Kong immediately covered his mouth and nodded. His soft voice came out from between his fingers. "Baby has learned a few words in the past 2 days. Can I write for Daddy?" Since the last time he brought his son to teach him, his son had already learned how to use a brush. Xiao Su nodded in satisfaction. "Okay." Little Kong Kong happily hugged his neck. "Daddy, let's go to the study." Xiao chuckled softly. His son was so motivated, so as his father, he naturally cooperated. Hence, the two of them slowly walked forward. Chapter 1661. 2 days passed. Su Yu's side had not found Fengling's whereabouts, but Gong Sunfei's side had some clues. It could be said to be accurate news. Xiao Su, Chu Qingyan, Sima Jun, Ji Linyang, and the others were all present, listening to Huoling's report of the situation. This subordinate has found that Fengling is currently in Gong Sunfei's residence, but he's been imprisoned. The place of imprisonment is very well hidden, but this subordinate has not been able to find out where he's been imprisoned. After Huoling finished speaking, Water Spirit couldn't help but ask, "Why is this Gong Sunfei imprisoning him?" Huoling revealed a difficult expression when he heard this. Originally, he wanted to hide this matter from Water Spirit, but she was the one in charge of intelligence in the fierce cavalry. He had been investigating Gong Sunfei for the past 2 days, so he couldn't hide it from her. That was why she was present today. The answer to her question was self-evident. With Gong Sunfei's evil reputation, what reason could there be? Huoling sighed. He knew that he couldn't get past her no matter what, so he could only tell the truth. Fengling came to North Korea 10 years ago. As for how he came here, they hadn't found out yet, but it was definitely related to Su Yu, because Fengling had been in Su Yu's residence for the past 10 years. Perhaps it was because Su Yu knew that his identity was special, so not many people knew about Fengling. However, no one knew why he was imprisoned for 10 years. However, some time ago, Gong Sunfei went to Su Yu's residence and coincidentally saw Fengling. She pestered Su Yu to cede Fengling to her. Su Yu couldn't persuade her, so he could only send him to her residence. So this was why Wei Yu had provided the information that the person was in Su Yu's residence, but they couldn't find him even after digging 3 feet into Su Yu's residence. If Huoling hadn't arranged for people to infiltrate Gong Sunfei's residence, they wouldn't have been able to find traces of Fengling, let alone find so many clues. That's too terrifying. He was actually imprisoned for 10 years. What is this Su Yu trying to do? Chung Yanluo couldn't help but exclaim in surprise after hearing this. Ethereal speculated. Judging from the way he acts, Su Yu is not a righteous person. If he discovers Wind Spirit's ability, it is not impossible for him to take the opportunity to obtain something from him. Ji Linyang nodded. Ethereal's words aren't without reason. Fengling is the most outstanding cavalry leader of the fierce cavalry, so he must have some outstanding qualities. Su Yu has been plotting to usurp the throne for a long time, and needs a wide range of talents. Perhaps he saw something in Fengling and brought him to his side, but Fengling refused to obey, which is why he was imprisoned for so many years. Everyone agreed with Ji Linyang's speculation. If that was the case, then it made sense why the Wind Spirit didn't return to find them even though he was still alive. The heavens have pity on us. Who knows how much Fengling has suffered for so many years? After becoming pregnant, Sima Jun became more melancholic and couldn't help but sigh. Water Spirit was silently enduring at the side. When she heard this, her eyes reddened and she knelt in front of her master. This subordinate doesn't know how he has survived for so many years. This subordinate only pleads with master to let this subordinate bring people directly to Gong Sunfei to ask for him. It was fine if this subordinate didn't know before, but now that this subordinate knows, this subordinate cannot sit idly by and let him be bullied by others. Gong Sunfei is a vicious and merciless person. This subordinate is afraid that if we wait any longer, who knows how much more he will suffer. When he heard Huoling's report of the situation, Xiao Su's expression was already very ugly. When he heard Water Spirit's words, he restrained his expression and raised his hand to have Huoling help her up. I can understand your feelings, but now is not the time to be impulsive. Although Gong Sunfei's ability is not enough, a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. Moreover, she has Su Yu behind her, so we must plan for the long term. Chu Qingyan also said, "Your master is right. For now we must know where Fengling is and whether or not he is in danger. If we act rashly, I'm afraid that someone will find our weakness and hurt Fengling." Water Spirit was startled. The agitation and anger in her body seemed to have dissipated in an instant. Her expression dimmed, and she seemed to have lost her soul. She knew that her master and the young princess were right, and she also knew that she couldn't do anything now. She hated her own incompetence. She clearly knew that he was suffering, but she couldn't do anything. Looking at the depressed and sorrowful water spirit, everyone felt their hearts ache. But now, other than giving her Fengling, no amount of comfort could help her. Xiao Su directly ordered, Hualing, you have full authority to deploy people. Do your best to find where Fengling is being held. Once you find him, immediately rescue him. Yes. Hualing pursed his lips and replied. There was already news of Fengling, but it made everyone's head feel like it was covered in a layer of dark clouds. Especially when Xiao Su told Water Spirit to stop what she was doing and hand everything over to Hualing, telling her not to participate. She silently handed over her authority and turned to leave. That thin figure left in everyone's eyes, and it was very painful. Everyone knew that she was not suitable to participate in the search in her current state. So in order to prevent her from being impulsive, Xiao Su stopped everything she was doing. But when he saw her dispirited appearance, his heart still couldn't bear it. Water Spirit is a reasonable person. She won't blame you. Chu Qingyan comforted him. Xiao Su touched her face. I know. Fengling's life was in danger in Gongsun Fei's hands, but he could only sit and wait for news. The only thing he could do now was to protect Water Spirit for Fengling. He couldn't let her die. In the palace of the capital, Gongsun Shui finished reading the letter and pinched the space between her eyebrows. This Suyu was too daring. He actually had ideas about the Ri clan at this time. Not only did he secretly send troops to the border between the two clans to take the opportunity to attack the Ri clan, but he also planned to bribe the Ri clan's generals. Did he not know that Morong Yunxian was strict in his management of the army? And after his persecution, the Ri clan had long been dissatisfied with the Yu clan. He dared to have such a plan? He was really delusional. Thinking of this, she put down the letter and her gaze fell on the person not far away. She found that he was in a daze. What are you thinking about? Xiao Yao heard her voice and came back to his senses. He smiled faintly at her. I'm thinking about how Big Brother and the others are doing. Wei Yu said that they have found Fengling's whereabouts. Gongsun Shui said. Xiao Yao was delighted. That's great. I believe they will be able to reunite with Fengling soon. Seeing the sincere smile on his face, Gongsun Shui's heart skipped a beat. She blurted out, let's go to Luoqing too. What? Xiao Yao was so happy that he didn't pay attention to what she said. He couldn't help but ask. Go and pack your things. We will leave for Luoqing tomorrow. Xiao Yao didn't react. Why would the Ice Beauty suddenly have such an idea? Didn't she say that she was busy with court matters and couldn't leave? Gongsun Shui glanced at him indifferently. If you don't go back and pack, I will go alone. Well, I will go and prepare now. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yao's figure disappeared from his seat. Gongsun Shui smiled and shook her head. However, she quickly stopped smiling. Some things should be resolved. She couldn't delay any longer. She didn't have much time left. Chapter 1662. When night fell, Hualing held the few clues in his hand, and his expression was a bit ugly. Sir, although Gongsun Fei is not a shrewd person, she is quite vigilant. In the palace, there are many places with restrictions. The people that infiltrated the palace cannot enter. The subordinate said in a regretful voice. Hualing nodded. Are there any places that are suspicious? The subordinate immediately spread out a map of Gongsun Fei's palace and pointed at several places. The warehouse, Gongsun Fei's main room. And these places are all heavily guarded. Hualing raised his hand and pointed at a place. Where is this? This is Gongsun Fei's inner courtyard. It is filled with beautiful men that she gathered from various places. There are also some that were sent by local officials to curry favor with her. There are at least 40 to 50 of them. Those that are favored have one room each, and those that are not favored often have 2 or 3 people in a room. This place is the largest other than Gongsun Fei's main room. When the subordinate answered this question, he did not hide his disdain at all. This was because they had been with their master and the little princess, and had been assimilated. They did not like having 3 wives and 4 concubines, having 3 husbands and 4 attendants, especially this kind of despicable act of stealing men. Hualing taunted. This woman really does not have any sense of shame. When we save Fengling, we will definitely properly take care of her. The subordinate nodded heavily. They looked down on people that bullied others the most. Hualing circled a few places and then said, "We can't just sit here and wait for death. We'll investigate these places tonight. If we don't find anyone, we'll continue tomorrow night." This subordinate will have the brothers that infiltrated the palace prepare to receive them. Good, send out the order. We'll move at 1 in the morning. Yes. After his subordinates left, Hualing looked at the map and thought to himself with a headache. Tonight's operation, he absolutely couldn't let Xue Ling know about it. Although his master had forbidden her from participating in this operation, according to her temperament, she wouldn't be so obedient. This worry lasted until the middle of the night. There was no movement from Water Spirit's side. Hualing was not assured and asked the subordinate in charge of taking care of her. "Is Water Spirit still in her room?" "Sir, Water Spirit is still in her room. After coming back today, she did not come out again." Hualing felt that this was not Water Spirit's personality, but he still let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps she had listened to his master's words. Thus he ordered, "Let's go." The dozen or so people moved in unison towards Gong Sunfei's residence. Their speed was as fast as the night wind, and their movements were light and silent. Soon everyone arrived outside the mansion walls. According to the previous arrangement, 3 or 4 people in a group would scout the area at night. Hualing made a hand gesture, and everyone immediately dispersed. "Liu Guang, Sweet Potato, let's go," Hualing said to the 2 behind him. "Yes." When Hualing was about to jump over the wall, he suddenly stopped. He suddenly turned around and stared at the person beside him. "You're not Sweet Potato." Hualing's confident tone and doubtful expression made Lu Guang look at the person who had been silent all the way. The masked man hesitated for a moment before taking off the cloth covering his face. "It's me." Flowing Light's eyes widened. "Lady Water Spirit. What about Sweet Potatoes? I locked him up in the room." Hualing sighed with a frown. "I just knew that you wouldn't be at ease waiting in the mansion." Water Spirit's fingers tightly gripped the cloth covering her face, as she said with a firm expression, "Hualing, I believe that you can understand my feelings. I hope that you won't stop me." Hualing helplessly looked at her. "Even if I stop you, you won't be able to go in?" Water Spirit shook her head. "I won't. Since I'm here, I won't return empty-handed." Because she was in charge of gathering information, she always dressed like a woman from the dust world. Only in front of Fengling would she act like a shy little girl. But after Fengling left, they had never seen her true smile. She was charming in front of people, but she was cold and lonely behind them. After the battle at Shui Slope, not only did it take the lives of the several hundred fierce cavalry, it also took away the light in her eyes. Now that she was facing the sky without makeup and had washed herself clean, she was wearing a set of black clothes. Her eyes were filled with longing for her lover, completely different from normal. She was still the same person, but there was light in her eyes. How long had it been since he had seen her this serious and reckless? As her older brother, how could Hualing have the heart to reject her request? "Forget it, I'll just go back and find my master to punish me." Water Spirit never thought that he would be convinced this easily. She had prepared a stomach full of words, but it was a bit hard to believe. He shook his head and turned to the stunned Water Spirit as he said, "Don't be in a daze, there isn't much time left. Go, 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 we're going to explore the back courtyard of this licentious princess. Who knows how many beautiful men are hidden inside." Water Spirit revealed a grateful smile, and jumped into the wall with him. Gong Sunfei's back courtyard was not only big, but it was also very luxurious. People couldn't help thinking of the phrase, "A golden house is hiding a mistress," but it was only hiding men. The 3 of them looked at each other, and began to search room by room. Hualing moved the tiles and used the light from inside to look inside. There were 2 people living inside, currently talking to each other. "Brother Lu, when will we be able to leave this damn place? I really don't want to serve this female bandit," a man with a delicate face said in a hateful voice. The other man with a resolute face tightly clenched his fist as he said, I don't know either. I really miss my wife and son right now. If it wasn't for this female bandit stealing me from the streets, I would have been able to catch my son tomorrow. The people inside continued to talk. Hualing had already closed the tiles and shook his head at Water Spirit. Let's go. She had also heard the words inside. She pursed her lips and stood up. On the way here, they had heard quite a few similar words. If it wasn't for the fact that they didn't know where Fengling was locked up, she would have pulled out her sword and cut down Gong Sunfei. Endure it. Hualing patted her shoulder. Good and evil will be repaid in the end. If you don't believe, look up and see who the heavens forgive. Water Spirit suppressed the anger in her heart and nodded. Let's go to the next courtyard. At this time, Hualing reached out to stop Water Spirit's movements. His voice was filled with joy. There's news from Lu Guang's side. Shui Ling immediately followed Yang Kai's line of sight, and a signal flashed. It was their contact method. Let's go. Water Spirit took the lead and flew off. Hualing chased after her and advised in a low voice, don't rush, it won't be good if the guards are alerted. Water Spirit immediately slowed down when she heard this and bit her lip. Although she was extremely anxious, she couldn't put her companions in danger because of her own selfishness. The two of them quickly found Lu Guang. He was currently in a room with two men in his hands. What is going on here? Hualing looked at the two of them and directly asked Lu Guang. Lu Guang replied. The two of them mentioned a person in their conversation that seemed to be Sir Fengling, so this subordinate boldly detained them. Water Spirit heard this and immediately turned to face the two of them. Her body couldn't help trembling as she said in a hoarse voice, You know Fengling? Chapter 1663. Those two had been scared half to death by Lu Guang's sudden appearance, and now there were two black-clothed people. They were trembling right now, afraid that these people would hurt them. We are good people, please don't kill us. We don't know anything. The two kneeled on the ground and kowtowed to them, begging for mercy. Water Spirit was impatient. She grabbed one of them by the collar and coldly said, We won't hurt you. I just want you to tell me if you know someone called Fengling. But it was clear that these two were rather timid. Being pulled by Water Spirit, they became even more afraid and couldn't say a single word. Hualing felt that this wasn't good. Once it involved Fengling, Water Spirit would find it hard to remain calm. They wouldn't be able to get anything out of her like this. So he patted Water Spirit's shoulder. Let me do it. Water Spirit finally unwillingly let go of that person's collar and stood to the side. Hualing helped the two up and tried to be as gentle as possible. Two young masters, don't panic, we aren't bad people. It's because our family was forcefully brought in by Gong Sunfei 2 days ago. You know Gong Sunfei's personality. We were afraid that he would be in danger, so we barged into the palace. In a moment of desperation. If we offended the two of you, we ask for your forgiveness. Hualing's attitude made the two less afraid. The gray-clothed man stood up and looked like he was in the same boat. I never thought that your family would also encounter this. All right. What do you want to know? We will tell you everything we know. Lu Guang immediately said, Just now, you said that Gong Sunfei brought a man into the palace a few days ago. That person didn't obey and almost injured Gong Sunfei. Please tell me more about this matter. I heard Gong Sunfei's guards talking about this matter 2 days ago. I don't know if it's true or not, but the situation is like this. I heard that this person was given to Gong Sunfei by Elder Su, but this young master wasn't willing. Gong Sunfei wanted to force herself on him, but this young master cleverly dodged and even injured her. Gong Sunfei was angry and said that she would starve him for a few days, waiting for him to beg for mercy. It's not like this hasn't happened before. Many people were starved to the point of lowering their heads, but the gray-clothed man and his companion looked at each other before shaking his head. That person isn't called Fengling. I heard he's called Shui Feng. He shouldn't be the person you're looking for. Shui Ling stood to the side, covering her mouth, wanting to laugh and cry at the same time. Hualing looked at Water Spirit with worry and said to the two, No, he's the person we're looking for. Fengling was his name, but when he went out, he always used the alias Water Spirit. Water in front, wind in back, using his name as your surname. From this small detail, it was enough to see the position Water Spirit had in his heart. Water Spirit did her best to calm down before asking, "Then do you know where he's locked up?" The two shook their heads at the same time. The other person said, "Gongsun Fei's residence is very large and heavily guarded. Other than our own rooms and her main courtyard, we're not allowed to set foot anywhere else, so we don't know." Hualing thanked them. "No matter what, many thanks for the information you two provided." The two nodded and the gray-clothed man continued, "You're welcome. It's just a small matter. I admire that young master's courage and boldness. I've never seen anyone who dares to go against Gongsun Fei and even injure her. This is simply too satisfying. However, it's been at least 3 days since I heard this news. Gongsun Fei has always been vicious and merciless, so you have to find that young master as soon as possible. Otherwise, you might be persecuted." Hualing nodded with a cold expression. "We will. Wait until we find our family. If you need us, we will also save you." The two looked at each other when they heard this and their expressions became excited. They immediately knelt down and kowtowed in thanks. "Many thanks. If there's a day when we can leave, even if we have to work like cows or horses, we will repay your kindness." After leaving the room, Water Spirit directly headed towards Gongsun Fei's main room. Hualing quickly grabbed her and reprimanded her in a low voice. "Water Spirit, what are you doing? You're crazy." Water Spirit's eyes were filled with rage. "I'm going to find Gongsun Fei. I want her to release Feng Ling." When she found out that Feng Ling had been tortured for several days, she couldn't control her body. Was there anything in this world that could compare to the pain of knowing your loved one was suffering, but not being able to see or touch him? Their movements seemed to have attracted the attention of the guards. Hualing immediately grabbed her wrist and dragged her out of the palace before letting her go. He had a serious expression. "Water Spirit, can you calm down a bit? We are also very worried about Feng Ling being like this. But can you really save him by being so impulsive? Everything needs to be thought out. Even if you don't believe me, you should believe Master." When the cold wind blew, she became much more awake. She leaned against the wall, and it was like she had lost all support. She raised her hand to cover her eyes as tears flowed down her cheeks. "Hualing, I feel bad." After saying this, seeing that she was no longer stubborn, Hualing finally let out a sigh of relief. He walked in front of her and pulled her into his embrace. He softly comforted her like a big brother. "Silly little sister, cry if you want to." Water Spirit finally broke out in tears. "We were clearly so close, but I couldn't find you. Feng Ling, I'm so helpless. Where are you? I miss you so much." Hualing heard her sorrowful cries and his heart was filled with pain. "Brother Feng Ling, if you can feel our emotions, then give us a hint so we can find you as soon as possible. Little sister Water Spirit really needs you." At the same time, in a dark room in the palace, there was a man lying on a cold bed. The man suddenly moved his fingers and slowly woke up from his stupor. He opened his eyes, but there was only darkness in front of him and he couldn't see anything. He raised his hand with great effort and placed it over his heart. His numb heart suddenly tightened and began to hurt. This was a feeling that he had never felt in 10 years. In his stupor, he seemed to have heard someone crying by his ear. The voice was so far away, yet so close. This was a voice that he hadn't heard in many years, but it had always been deeply engraved in his mind, heart, and memories. Whenever he couldn't take it anymore, he would close his eyes and return to his memories. He would absorb the strength and courage to live from her laughter. He blinked and his dry lips slightly moved. "Water Spirit, is that you? Who made you cry and make you so sad? If I was still here, I would definitely get justice for you." But, as soon as his words fell, he woke up. His throat was a bit dry. Why was she here? This place was so far away from Sichuan. Perhaps it was because of his longing that he couldn't distinguish between dreams and reality. He wanted to see his beloved girl. Even if it was just a glance, he was willing to use his life to exchange for it. Water Spirit. Chapter 1664. The first night of searching Gong Sunfei's residence had yielded some results, but they still couldn't determine where Fengling was being held. So for the next few nights, Xiao Su sent out the fierce cavalry to investigate. However, they returned with no results. At this time, Su Yu's army and the Japanese army started fighting. Because this was Gong Sunfei's headquarters, they weren't affected. However, Jin Xian's ability to lead an army was obvious. Su Yu's generals couldn't stop him at all. Jin Xian sent a message saying that they had broken through Su Yu's army's sneak attack and would soon begin their counterattack. Su Yu had wild ambitions, and it was only a matter of time before he went against the Japanese. However, they didn't expect him to act so soon. However, these two sides didn't affect Xiao Su and the others much. The most important thing was to find Fengling, but so far they hadn't found any useful clues. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, two unexpected people appeared in front of them. Miss Gongsun's second brother, why are you here? Chu Qingyan rubbed her eyes, thinking that she was hallucinating. Xiao Yao opened his folding fan and covered his face, only revealing a pair of peach blossom eyes. He smiled and said, "Of course we miss you. That's why we came all the way here. Tell me, as your younger brother, aren't I very awesome? Shouldn't you take out some good wine and food to reward us?" Gong Sun Shui glanced at him and said to everyone, "Ignore him. I forgot to give him medicine when I brought him out today." Xiao Yao gave her an aggrieved look. Chu Qingyan looked at the two of them and smiled. Perhaps Gong Sun Shui did not realize it herself, but her tone was very intimate. It was obvious that the relationship between the two of them had improved by leaps and bounds without them knowing. Then why did Miss Gongsun come here? Xiao Su didn't believe his second brother's words. This person had always been unreliable. Gong Sun Shui immediately became serious. "I heard that you have encountered trouble in finding Fengling, so I came to see if there's anything I can help with." She spoke modestly, but in the eyes of the others she seemed to be confident. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su looked at each other, and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Not to mention whether or not she could help find Fengling. Just look at the current situation. Su Yu and Gong Sunfei were at war with the Ri clan. As the legitimate clan leader of the Yu clan, shouldn't she take this opportunity to attack Su Yu's rear and wipe out all these traitors? How could he appear in Gong Sunfei's territory, and so brazenly? Wasn't he afraid of being discovered? Gong Sun Shui knew what they were thinking, but at this time, she didn't want to explain. Gong Sun Shui, Gong Sun Shui, and Gong Sun Shui, Gong Sun Shui, and Gong Sun Shui. In the past 2 days, they had already thought of breaking in, but coincidentally, the two sides were at war, and Gong Sunfei's residence was surrounded by the Imperial Guards. She was completely surrounded, and they had no way to do anything to her. At this time, Water Spirit and the others all looked at Gong Sun Shui. Gong Suanxue looked back at Xiao Su calmly. Although she was a woman, she was still a sect leader. Her aura was not weak. She said slowly, "This is not a good idea. I'm sure you've thought about it before." Forced their way in. Hualing quickly followed up. Gong Suanxue nodded. "That's right. You have already investigated Gong Sunfei's residence many times, but there has been no news. The reason is very simple. Although my sister is not smart enough, she has a talent for construction. She likes to study strange things, so the secret rooms and secret passages are places that ordinary people can't imagine. As long as she wants to hide someone, there is nothing she can't hide. Therefore, time waits for no one. We have to take action. But there is a problem now." Chu Qingyan frowned and said, "Recently Gong Sunfei's entire residence is under martial law and there are Imperial Guards guarding it. Our people cannot get close. Even if we find him, it will not be easy to forcibly take him out." This was the biggest problem they were facing now. No one would have thought that Su Yu would attack the sun race at this time. The situation was unprecedentedly tense. Gong Sunfei was the leader that Su Yu wanted to elect. Naturally, everywhere she went was under martial law. Ordinary people could not get close. Xiao Su nodded. Although the people they brought were all elites, they were still lacking compared to the army. Moreover, they had 2 pregnant women with them. It was not a good idea to fight force with force. However, Chu Qingyan's words did not make Gong Sun Shui feel awkward. She thought for a moment, and then turned her eyes to the people beside her. You don't have to worry about the imperial guards around Gongsun Fei. I have a way to deal with them. Everyone was shocked. They knew that Gongsun Shui was a person who spoke her mind. She was not a person who would lie. Since she said it, there was definitely no problem. However, at this time, she appeared here to help them. This made them puzzled. Xiao was originally listening to them talk leisurely. However, when he received the Ice Beauty's gaze, he was stunned. He raised his hand and pointed at himself. I don't have a way to deal with those Imperial guards. You have my token. It can mobilize 1,000 Imperial guards around me. As soon as Gongsun Shui's voice fell, everyone looked at Xiao with a shocked expression. Good fellow, he got the Ice Beauty so quickly? She even gave him the most important token to mobilize her troops. It seemed that good news for these two was not far away. Xiao took out the token that he had cheated for fun. It was a golden token. It was small but very eye-catching. He raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, Are you planning to mobilize your own people to deal with Gongsun Fei? But shouldn't you be attacking them from the back, and taking the opportunity to take back the cities that they have occupied? Gongsun Shui smiled faintly. Actually, helping you is also helping myself. As the saying goes, capture the leader first to capture the bandits. If I can capture Gongsun Fei, it will be a heavy blow to Suyu. At that time, he won't be able to take care of himself. It will affect his morale, and I can slowly take back those cities. The reason she gave was very good, but for some reason, Xiao felt that something was wrong. However, he could not find any fault with it. He could only keep it in his heart and slowly think about it. Water Spirit stood up excitedly and said to Xiao, Master, this subordinate feels that Sect Master Gongsuan's suggestion is the most feasible at the moment. We can wait, but Fengling can't. Xiao thought about it carefully and finally nodded to Gongsun Shui. Then I will have to trouble Sect Master Gongsun. Gongsun Shui shook her head and said, Helping you is also helping me. When they heard this, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. However, after many things had happened, they realized that from the beginning, everything had been under her control. From the beginning, the ending was destined. Chapter 1665. With Gongsun Shui's support, finding Fengling and saving him was just around the corner. After confirming the plan, Xiao asked, So when does Sect Master Gongsun think is the best time to act? Gongsun Shui answered without hesitation. 3 days later. Hearing this, Water Spirit thought of the news she received earlier, and couldn't help but feel anxious. They said Fengling is being punished now. I'm worried that he won't be able to take it after a long time. Gongsun Shui turned to look at her and comforted her. Don't worry. Although Gongsun Fei is ruthless, she won't take the life of the person she cares about so easily. So don't worry. Young Master Fengling may suffer a little, but he will still be alive. Moreover, Gongsun Fei has a lot of things to worry about these few days. She won't have the energy to find trouble with young Master Fengling. With Gongsun Shui's words, Water Spirit was relieved. Although she was still a little worried, this was the best way now. After finalizing the plan, arranging the personnel, and following up, the sky gradually darkened. After everyone had dinner together, they went back. After all, the days were short and the nights were long in winter. It was cold and they should rest early. Gongsun Shui and Xiao's rooms were next to each other, so they went back together. As they walked, Gongsun Shui realized that Xiao had become less talkative ever since they entered the hall. This was not in line with his personality. She couldn't help but glance at him. It would have been better if she didn't look. Once she looked, she met his gaze that was locked on her. She was slightly startled. Xiao didn't feel embarrassed because she caught him red-handed. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and became more brazen. Why are you looking at me? He didn't speak, so she had to take the initiative to speak. Xiao looked at her without blinking. Tell me honestly, did you decide on this support on the spur of the moment, or did you plan it all along? So it was because of this. Gongsun Shui didn't think much of it and said frankly, I already decided before coming to Luocheng. So it was true. Xiao was unhappy. I thought you were here purely to accompany me to find big brother and sister-in-law. I didn't think this was just a bonus. Hearing his unhappy tone, Gongsun Shui didn't understand. What was there to be angry about? She was thinking, was it because she had been too nice to him recently, so whenever something didn't go his way, he would start to throw a tantrum. So, she decided to ignore him and let him jump around for a while. Then he would stop on his own. However, the cold treatment didn't seem to work this time. Xiao was determined to annoy her to death. Ice Beauty, I am very unhappy. Xiao kept repeating these words beside her ear. Every now and then, he would snort heavily to accompany himself. Xiao was still following her all the way back to her room. He had an expression that said, "If I'm not happy, you can't escape either." She couldn't help Shui's the way. She turned to find the corner the way. She turned to this turn to the turn to her. The ken the way corner. Why? Esths. It seemed more suitable for her husband's attitude towards his wife who was throwing a tantrum. But Xiao had already vented his anger the whole way. He didn't have the energy to find out if her attitude had changed. Seeing that she was finally looking at him, he was happy, but his face was full of resentment. I trusted you so much, but you didn't tell me anything the whole way. Gongsun Shui was speechless. He was upset over such a small matter. She sighed. Helping your big brother find someone is a piece of cake. There's no need to publicize it. Look at what he said. He was obviously treating him as an outsider. Xiao felt even more uncomfortable when he heard that. He felt like he was punching cotton again. He was frustrated for a long time, but the other party didn't respond. The person in front of her kept glaring at her. Gongsun Shui wondered if they were always on the same page. Sometimes she couldn't understand what he was thinking. Thinking that it was late, she stopped probing into his strange inner world. She put her hands on the door and said, "It's late. You must be tired after a few days of traveling. Go back and rest." After she finished speaking, she was about to close the door, but a hand held her door and stopped her. Gongsun Shui looked at him helplessly. "What else do you want?" Xiao pursed his lips. "What am I to you?" He sounded casual, but in fact he was very concerned. His ears were pricked up, afraid that he would miss her answer. This was the real reason why he was so conflicted along the way. What was his position in her heart? He had always felt that he had slowly integrated into her life and seeped into her heart over the past few days. However, after this incident, he realized that there was still an invisible wall between them. What he saw was what she was willing to let him see. He and other people were no different to her. However, he had been so happy with her these days that he neglected a lot of things. For example, he never heard her mention her past, never went out with her, never opened his heart to her. So, was he the only one who took all the blame for everything? However, when he asked, he regretted it. If the answer wasn't what he wanted, how could he pretend that nothing had happened and continue to treat her well? What if she felt that she had overstepped and didn't want to be close to him anymore? So impulse was the devil. However, the words that had been said couldn't be taken back. He could only bite the bullet and wait for her answer anxiously. He was the one who was confident, but in the end, he was the one who had the least confidence. He laughed at himself in his heart. Gongsun Shui didn't expect him to suddenly say this. It was like a sudden flash of lightning on a calm sea, causing huge waves to surge and roll. Her gaze fell on the stone steps. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. She had never thought about this question, and didn't dare to think about it. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to give him an answer. She was also afraid that the answer would make her lose the courage to continue moving forward. During this period of time, his companionship, care, and thoughtfulness had been pervasive in her life. She had never seen such a considerate, humorous, and intelligent person. How could she not feel anything? But she was so selfish that she let herself draw warmth from him. What right did she have to give him an answer? After a long time, when he didn't hear her answer, Xiao gave up. Forget it, that's just how she is. She's as stubborn as a rock. He'd better continue covering her up. Sooner or later, she would be warmed by him. Thinking of this, he no longer felt conflicted. Just as he was about to change the topic, he saw her suddenly raise her hand towards him from the corner of his eye. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. He was stunned and choked on the words in his throat. Chapter 1666. Gongsun Shui only reacted when her hand was in midair and was about to land on his face. She saw a flash of sadness in his eyes just now, which made her waver a little. Her heart softened a little, which was why she made such a subconscious move. Fortunately, she noticed it in time. But when she saw his eyes lit up with anticipation, she couldn't bear to retract her hand. In the end, she raised it and placed it on his head. Although she was considered very tall compared to ordinary girls, she was still a little short in front of him. She could only place her hand on his head. She touched it twice and said softly, "Don't think too much. I don't mean anything by this. I'm not guarding against you." Xiao snorted. Did she think he was a glutinous rice ball? But the fire in his heart was extinguished just like that. She had successfully pacified him. But a certain someone was still holding it up proudly, not letting others see that his little tail was already wagging. He was distracted thinking that the ice beauty's hand was so soft. He wanted to let her touch it forever. But fantasies were plump, while reality was bony. Gongsun Shui quickly retracted her hand. Seeing that he was no longer nagging and wasn't that depressed, she was relieved. She took a step back and closed the door again. Go back and rest early. With that, the door closed in front of Xiao. Gongsun Shui looked at the closed door and let out a long sigh. She hoped that this idiot wouldn't think too much. There weren't many days left. She didn't want them to waste their time on this. However, when she turned around, she saw that the idiot she had been worried about was sitting on a chair with his legs crossed and a fan fanning himself. It was as if he was in his own room. Seeing him like this, she knew that she had been worried for nothing. She looked at the wide-open window and raised her eyebrows slightly. This habit of jumping through the window whenever there was a disagreement had to be changed. She walked over and closed the door. The cold wind was blocked outside. The stove was still burning, and the room regained some warmth. Xiao felt the ice beauty's cold gaze and immediately laughed. "Don't worry, I'll leave after asking the last question. I won't disturb your rest." What was the saying, "Don't hit a smiling face"? This was a classic example. Gongsun Shui smiled coldly. "You have so many questions today." Xiao chuckled, as though he couldn't hear the mockery in her words. He leaned back in his chair and made himself comfortable. Then he slowly said, "There's something I don't understand." "Speak." "Since your people have already arrived in Luocheng, I can deal with Gongsun Fei directly once I show my token. Why do I have to wait until 3 days later?" This was what he could not understand in the hall today. Gongsun Shui's eyes flashed, but she quickly regained her composure. She walked to the chair opposite him and sat down. "Because I need to make some arrangements." Xiao glanced at her, trying to find a flaw in her expression, but to no avail. He straightened his back and the smile in his eyes faded. He said seriously, "Ice Beauty, I hope that we can be honest with each other. At the very least, we can be considered friends. The most important thing between friends is honesty and trust." Gongsun Shui clenched her fists subconsciously and tried to maintain her composure. "Of course." After getting her answer, the seriousness on Xiao's face faded instantly. He returned to his usual joking manner. "All right, then I won't disturb your rest. See you tomorrow." He stood up and prepared to walk towards the door. Halfway there, he suddenly thought of something. He patted his head and said to her, "I'd better go through the window. No one saw me coming in just now. If I go out now, I'll probably scare your people." With that, he jumped out of the window. The cold wind blew in, waking her up from her fever. She turned to look at the wide-open window. For some reason, her heart was filled with bitterness. How could she not want to be honest? It was just that the heavens left her with too few choices. Forget it, so be it. After Xiao went out, he didn't leave quickly. He saw her get up and close the window. Looking at her slender figure reflected on the paper window, his expression was not as relaxed as before. Instead, it was covered with a faint shadow. Ever since they left the capital, He started to sense that something was different about her. However, she didn't say anything and he couldn't ask. Ice Beauty, what on earth are you thinking in your heart? Putting aside the matters of the Yu clan, and ignoring the current tense situation, she came all the way to Luoqing just to help his royal brother find someone? It didn't make sense. There was no reason. He couldn't be blamed for being paranoid. In these troubled times, she just had to choose 3 days later. It was as if a storm was brewing. He wasn't worried that she would harm them, but he had a bad premonition. And this premonition was related to her. He wanted to find his royal brother to analyze the situation, but when he looked at the sky, it was already too late. He could only give up. Because they already had a clear plan and a strong backing. Everyone was waiting for the day of action. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Although time passed very quickly, a lot of things happened during this period of time. For example, the army that Suyu sent out suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Sun clan. They abandoned 2 cities. Then their provisions disappeared mysteriously, causing their morale to plummet. After a few days, they lost their largest city. When they retreated to the river, the bridge was broken. Tens of thousands of people were captured by the Sun clan. Therefore, Su Yu and Gong Sunfei were so anxious that they decided to abandon Luoqing and run away. At this time, Gong Sunxue brought Xiao Su, Xiao Yao, and the others to Gong Sunfei's residence. Gong Sunfei was ordering people to pack their luggage and prepare to escape to the north. When she heard that her residence was surrounded, she was so shocked that she dropped her teacup. What's going on? Could it be that the Japanese had come? So fast? They're not from the Sun clan. They're wearing our Yu clan's uniform. The person who reported was so scared that he trembled. He didn't see the leader clearly, but the shiny knives scared him out of his wits. Are they from our side? This thought flashed through Gong Sunfei's mind, but she immediately rejected it. If they were reinforcements, how could they surround her residence? They must be enemies, her sworn enemies. Since they're here, she'll go and meet them. Let's see who has the guts to hit her when she's down. Xiao Yao stood in the courtyard and looked at the surrounding buildings. He discovered that this Gong Sunfei really knew how to enjoy life. She had built her mansion to be even more luxurious and exquisite than the Ice Beauty's palace. It could be seen that this wolf's ambition had long been known by everyone. He wanted to see what kind of 3 heads and 6 arms this Gong Sunfei has. She actually dared to kidnap a man and force him to be her concubine. The princess has arrived. A loud voice shouted. Xiao Yao looked in the direction of the voice and saw a big fat ball moving towards them. The corner of his mouth twitched. Oh my God! Chapter 1667. Following the loud singing, everyone's eyes fell on the slowly approaching ball. Oh no, it was the person. The person was wearing a pink dress that clearly did not match her figure. Her hair was full of pearl hairpins, her neck was full of gold chains, her wrists were full of gold bracelets, and her fingers were full of jade rings. Her head was fat, and she could feel the ground shaking as she walked. From the moment she appeared to the moment she walked in front of them, it was only a few steps, but it took her half a cup of tea's time. She was also panting as if she had climbed a mountain. Xiao Yao whispered to the person beside him. Are you sure this person is your cousin, and has the same grandfather and grandmother? Hearing his incredulous tone, Gong Xuanxue's mouth twitched. Everyone who met her had asked this question before, and it was really annoying. It's the real one. Xiao Yao thought of the men who had been harmed by her, and could not help but feel sympathy. If the person was good-looking, then it was barely a loss. But looking like this, it was a tragedy. Gong Sunfei took a few breaths, took the handkerchief from the maidservant, and wiped the sweat on her forehead. Then she tried to open her eyes, which were so fat that there were no gaps. Who on earth is so bold to mess with me? If you're not afraid of death, then... Ah, Gong Xuanxue, how can it be you? Halfway through her words, Gong Xuanfei saw that the person standing not far away was her cousin. She was so scared that she could not speak clearly. Why can't it be me? Gong Xuanxue looked at her indifferently. She had not seen her cousin for a month or 2, and she had gained weight again. Gong Xuanfei's fat face shook. Of course it couldn't be her. The two people she was most afraid of in her life were her grandfather and this cousin of hers, because this person was ruthless, cold-blooded, and smart. Since young, every time she schemed against her cousin could easily resolve it. This made her so angry that her teeth itched. She hated people who were prettier than her and had a higher status than her, and Gong Suanxue had undoubtedly violated her taboo. Unfortunately, she could not get rid of her. She could only fear her and hate her on one hand. Why didn't you stay in the capital and be the sect leader? What are you doing here? Don't you know that the Japanese are almost here? Are you here to die? Gong Suanfei's fat lips trembled. She wanted to make a mocking face, but there was too much fat on her face and it did not work. Even if you want to die, you'll die first. Stupid woman, how many innocent people have you bullied? You'll get your retribution soon. Xiao Yao could not stand this person's arrogant words to the ice beauty. As long as Gong Sunxue appeared, Gong Sunfei would automatically be on guard against her and ignore the surroundings, so she didn't notice Xiao Yao and the others who were following Gong Sunxue until Xiao Yao spoke. Although Gong Sunfei was fat and her eyesight wasn't good, what was incredible was that she had a very powerful ability to recognize beautiful men. As long as a man was slightly good-looking, she would be able to quickly capture him, just like Xiao Yao, Ji Linyang, Kongling, Hualing and the others. Of the. Gong Suanxue facepalmed. She was acting up again. How embarrassing. Everyone was amazed by Gong Sunfei's ability to change her expression. Just now she was still so arrogant, as if Gong Sunxue owed her something. Now, she was calling Gong Sunxue sister because of her beauty. Xiao Yao expressed that he had never seen such a shameless woman in his life. Being teased by a woman in broad daylight, and such an unsightly one at that. Xiao Su and Ji Linyang exuded a cold aura. People close to them could not help but feel the temperature drop. But Gong Suanfei did not seem to feel anything. She kept drooling and waved at them. My darlings, come over quickly. As long as you serve me well, I can guarantee that you won't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of your lives. Hualing secretly glanced at his master's face that was getting darker and darker. He swallowed and looked disdainfully at that fat ball. So arrogant. Our little princess consort can use silver to smash you into a meat patty with just a wave of her finger. You overestimate yourself. Gag her mouth. Xiao Su's voice became several degrees colder. The Xiao-Lai cavalry were all hot-blooded and righteous men. They had long been impatient with this harmful fat ball. When they heard the order, they immediately rushed forward and beat down the guards beside her. They took out ropes and tied up the slow Gong Sunfei. Before Gong Suanfei could react, she had already become a prisoner. She was a bit dazed. Weren't they all kind and beautiful men just now? Why did they become hostile in the blink of an eye? Ji Linyang nodded at Xiao Su. Good job. I've wanted to sew that mouth for a long time. Hualing glared at Gong Suanfei. If it wasn't for Fengling's whereabouts, this person would have gone to see the king of hell already. After a moment of silence, they took off the cloth in Gong Suanfei's mouth. What do you want to do? Where are my people? How dare you touch me? I am the future sect master of the Moon Clan. Aren't you afraid that I will have your heads fall to the ground? If you know what's good for you, then quickly let me go. Gong Suanfei opened her mouth to scare them. It was a pity that these words didn't mean anything to these people who had walked through bloody battles. Gong Suanxue softly said, Your people have already been taken down by us. You better cooperate with us now, otherwise we won't be so polite later. Gong Suanfei began to panic. Gong Suanxue, what do you want to do? I'm telling you, I've already made an appointment with grandfather. If I don't appear, he will know something happened to me. At that time, you won't be able to run. Gong Suanxue did not want to argue with her and directly stated her intentions. Half a month ago, you took someone from Suyu called Shui Feng. Where is he now? Only then did Gong Sunfei realize, you're here for him? Water Spirit, who had been enduring on the side, finally couldn't take it anymore, and stood up. She angrily pointed at Gong Suanfei and said, Speak! Where did you hide him? Gong Suanfei struggled to raise her head to look at the beautiful Water Spirit in front of her. Her heart was filled with jealousy. Why did they all look so good? It really made people grit their teeth. She narrowed her eyes and said to Water Spirit in a strange voice, "What are you so agitated for? Could it be that this handsome man is your old flame?" Water Spirit slapped her face. That fat trembling flesh was very thick and there was no red mark at all. However, Gong Suanfei cried out like a pig being slaughtered. "You lowly servant, you dare hit me. I'm telling you, I won't tell you where he is. Even if I die, I won't." Gong Suanfei viciously glared at Water Spirit, as if she wanted to tear her apart. "We'll find him ourselves." Hualing was also angry. If it was a man, he would have directly kicked him. "Ha ha ha, you won't be able to find him. In this world other than me, no one can find him." Hearing Gong Suanfei's crazy laughter, Xiao Su frowned and directly gave the order, "Search." Chapter 1668. As soon as Xiao Su finished speaking, Water Spirit and Hualing immediately led their people down. Because everyone in the residence was under control, they went straight to the few places that they found suspicious but found nothing. Gong Sunshui led everyone to the main hall with Gong Sunfei. Gong Sunfei was pinned to the ground. Her fat body was like a pile of rotten meat. Her legs couldn't even be seen. However, at this time, she didn't feel like a prisoner. Her eyes, which were only a slit, stared at Xiao Yao lustfully, then slid past Ji Linyang, then fell on Xiao Su's tall and slender body. It was as if she was staring at a piece of braised pork. She was so hungry that her saliva was about to flow out. Xiao Yao disdained this kind of person. She was like a female pervert. No, she was a female pervert. However, being stared at like this, no matter how good his self-control was, he felt very uncomfortable. He really wanted to dig her eyes out. Gong Sunfei had always been arrogant and domineering. Usually, people who flattered her were like carps crossing the river. Now these people not only treated her rudely, but also disdained her. Slowly, she became angry. However, she couldn't bear to get angry at handsome men, so she turned her target to Gong Sunshui. She said unhappily, "Gong Sunshui, if grandfather didn't spare your life back then, would you still be able to show off in front of me now? If you know what's good for you, let them release me. Otherwise, when grandfather's people come, just a few people like you won't be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth." Gong Sunshui looked at her and said with a hint of mockery, "If he dared to kill me back then, he wouldn't have today's status. It's not that I, Gong Sunshui, beg him, but that he wants me to live. Don't put the cart before the horse." Gong Sunfei choked. She didn't expect that after not seeing her for half a year, she had become so eloquent. If it was in the past, she wouldn't have said a word. However, if she was embarrassed by a few words, then she wouldn't be Gong Sunfei. She always felt that others had wronged her, but she had never wronged others. Isn't it because he protected you? Otherwise, you would be sitting in the position of sect leader now. Gong Sunshui, do you think you can live happily for a few more days? Let me tell you, when grandfather reclaims the Sun Clan, you'll be dead. When we left the capital, we already took most of our troops with us. How can you and those old soldiers fight us? Gong Suanxue, have you forgotten who was the one who put cockroaches in your food? Who was the one who tampered with your clothes when you ascended to the throne? Let me tell you, if I could do it in the past, I can do it now. I love to see you being angry but not daring to say anything. Gong Sunfei's is and Gong Sunshui's, they were outsiders. Sun Yao's families is of them. Of family of Uvs. Xiao Yao sat at the side, listening to Gong Sunfei's words. He was so angry that he wanted to kick her to the ground and return all the things she had done to the Ice Beauty in the past. He glanced to the side and saw that the Ice Beauty beside him had a normal expression. He couldn't help but feel his heart ache. In the past, he had always wondered what had caused her to have such a cold and emotionless personality. He had often complained that she didn't understand romance. But today, after hearing about her past from Gong Sunfei, he finally understood that she had suffered so much. Being able to live until now was already a blessing. He was born in the royal family and had already seen through this kind of thing. How could he forget it when it came to the Ice Beauty? Those who climbed out of the whirlpool of power and fame in the royal family, which one of them didn't cut through thorns and fight bloody battles? It was already very good that they didn't lose their hearts. That icy and pure appearance, in fact, wrapped around a heart full of holes. If they weren't here, he would have reached out and hugged her. Gong Shui felt Xiao Yao's gaze and sighed in her heart. She didn't know what he thought of her after hearing these things from Gong Sunfei. But these were all facts. Even if her image in his heart was destroyed, it couldn't be changed. Gong Sunfei talked a lot until she was thirsty. She found that Gong Shui's expression didn't change, as if she didn't care about her in the past. Gong Sunfei suddenly became angry and said the taboo topic of the Moon Clan. Gong Shui, do you still remember how your father died? Gong Shui's expression changed slightly. Even Xiao Su and the others couldn't help but look at Gong Sunfei. She hated Gong Shui's noble appearance the most. She was the happiest to be able to tear off that mask. Plus, being stared at by the handsome men made Gong Sunfei's heart swell. She said those hidden secrets just like that. That's right. Your father didn't die in an accident. He died in the hands of his most trusted brother, which is my father. You didn't expect it, right? Ah. Gong Shui's hand subconsciously clenched the armrest, her eyes full of anger. So it was you who killed my father. Xiao Yao glared at Gong Sunfei. He wanted to tear her mouth off. Don't worry. You've been at death's door for so many years. It won't be long before you reunite with them. Gong Sunfei didn't notice the disgust everyone was giving her. She was still feeling complacent. It was unknown if she was too well protected. She was reduced to such a state and still dared to talk nonsense. She was simply a simple-minded but well-developed idiot. Xiao Yao said coldly, "You're about to die and you still dare to talk nonsense. Open your eyes and look at your current situation. Your so-called grandfather can't even protect himself now. Don't expect him to come and save you." In fact, Gong Sunfei was just pretending. She was just bluffing. She thought that she could scare them, but it didn't work. Instead, she was threatened. She stared at the crowd and snorted. She said to Gong Shui, "Do you think you can escape if I can't escape? If something happens to my grandfather, then the Ri clan's next target will be you. We are interdependent. If you want to keep your position, I advise you to send troops to help my grandfather. Otherwise, none of us will have a good ending." Gong Sunfei was really thick-skinned. Just a moment ago, she admitted that she killed their father. Now, she wanted them to send troops to save them. How could there be such a good thing in this world? However, Gong Sunfei was right about one thing. They were interdependent with Gong Shui. If they fell, then Gong Shui was the only barrier left for the Yu clan. Xiao Su and the others were silent. They were in an awkward position now. They were on Jin Xian's side, and now they needed Gong Shui's help. So at this time, it was best not to say anything. Gong Shui narrowed her eyes and was about to speak when the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside. She couldn't help but close her mouth. Water Spirit rushed in first. As soon as she came in, she went straight to Gong Sunfei. She grabbed her clothes with both hands and her eyes were red with anger. "Tell me, where did you hide Feng Ling?" Chapter 1669. Gong Sunfei was at least twice the weight of an adult man, yet she had been lifted up by Shui Ling by the collar. So it was easy to imagine how angry Shui Ling was at this time. Gong Sunfei, on the other hand, had her collar clasped and she was unable to breathe. If it weren't for Hu Ling who was following closely behind, Gong Sunfei might have already been sent to see King Yama. The change just now happened in an instant, and no one could react in time. Xiao Su angrily reprimanded, "Water Spirit, where are your manners?" He could understand Water Spirit's anxious feelings, but this was the Moon Clan. Gong Shui and the others were still here, so they could not overstep their boundaries. Otherwise, if the other side wanted to pursue this matter, it would not be without reason. So he was a step ahead of everyone else and reprimanded Water Spirit, but it was also to protect her. Water Spirit took back her hand. She was anxious and angry, with tears in her eyes. She knelt in front of her master with tears flowing down her face. Master, we've searched the entire palace, but we haven't found Wind Spirit's whereabouts. What should we do? Hualing quickly followed up. That's right, we've already dug 3 feet into the ground, but we still haven't found Wind Spirit. Could it be that Wind Spirit isn't here? Everyone couldn't help but frown as they looked at Gong Sun Fei. Xiao Su's eyes flashed with hostility. Where is he? Gong Sun Fei was currently coughing with great effort. That woman looked delicate and weak, but she never thought that she would be so strong, almost strangling her to death. Hearing Xiao Su's sudden shout, she shivered in fright. Although her eyes wandered around the handsome men just now, she didn't dare to look at Xiao Su for too long. Although he was wearing a mask, from her many years of experience, she knew that this person was not to be trifled with. Just a glance just now, this person was emitting a murderous aura all over his body, and she was instantly terrified. But what she disliked the most was being threatened by others. They thought that with Wind Spirit in her hands, these people would not dare do anything to her. So she raised her chin and arrogantly looked down on everyone. Didn't I just say it? Other than me, no one can find Shui Feng. You still don't believe me? He quickly release me, kneel in front of me and kowtow 3 times. Say that you will never dare to offend me again, and leave all the beautiful men to serve me. Then I will consider letting you see him. Shameless. Water Spirit gave him a tight slap. It was a pity that this person's flesh was too thick. His palms hurt from the beating. Gong Sun Fei was slapped in the face. She was afraid of pain the most. At this time she cried out, "You bitch, you actually dared to hit me. Let me tell you, don't even think about knowing his whereabouts." Water Spirit pulled out the sword at Hualing's waist and pointed it at her neck. "Do you believe that I won't kill you right now?" Gong Sun Fei couldn't help but shrink back a little, but she quickly stretched her neck and shouted, "If I die, he won't be able to live either. Think about it carefully." The fat on Gong Sun Fei's face jiggled as she smiled triumphantly. Her fat and greasy appearance, coupled with her attitude, made everyone present feel disgusted. Water Spirit's hand trembled and hesitation appeared on her face. Gong Sun Fei was right, she couldn't kill her right now. At this time, Xiao Su stood up and walked in front of Gong Sun Fei. His black eyes were filled with cold killing intent. "You're mistaken. If anything happens to Feng Ling, you won't live either." As soon as he said this, Xiao Yao and the others immediately felt the temperature in the room drop. Xiao Yao couldn't help but rub his arms. It seemed that his royal brother was angry. Once his royal brother was angry, someone would suffer. Gong Sun Fei was scared out of her wits by Xiao Su's aura. However, she was thick and wasn't afraid of the cold. At this time, her intelligence was online, and she knew that Feng Ling was her only bargaining chip. As long as she used Feng Ling to negotiate, she would be able to protect herself in the end, so she couldn't give it up so easily. Thus, Gong Sun Fei trembled and said, You think you'll scare me by threatening me like this? Let me tell you, if you let me go, guarantee my safety, and let them serve me. If you agree to all my conditions, I'll be merciful and tell you his whereabouts. Otherwise, don't even think about it." Perhaps no one would have thought that the reason why Gong Sun Fei had the courage to go against Xiao Su was because of her obsession with beauty. All the men present were of the highest quality. She had lived for so many years, but none of the male attendants she had snatched were so outstanding. Thus it proved that saying, "If you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost." Xiao Yao and the others couldn't help but have goosebumps when they saw Gong Sun Fei's perverted look. For a woman to be able to live to this extent, it could be considered a miracle in the world. How could Xiao Su agree to her conditions? Just as he was about to pry the whereabouts out of her mouth, he heard Gong Sun Shue's voice. "Don't worry about her identity. So you can't hold on any longer. The Yu clan will be defeated sooner or later. When that time comes, she'll be nothing. Don't worry about it. It'll be difficult to explain to the Yu clan. So, you can interrogate her however you want. I'll pretend I don't know anything." Gong Sun Fei was stunned by Gong Sun Shue's cold voice. She glared at Gong Sun Shue and said, "How can you treat me like this? Our matters should be settled behind closed doors. How can you let an outsider humiliate me? The ancestors of the Gong Sun clan are watching. Aren't you afraid of being cursed when you see them in the future?" Xiao Yao couldn't help but retort. You vicious fat woman, when you killed my father, did you ever think about your ancestors? The ones who should be struck by lightning the most should be you, the scourge. Perhaps when your ancestors see your end, they'll clap their hands and cheer. You dash. Gong Sunfei was so angry that she couldn't say a word. Gong Sunshui looked at Xiao Yao, who was angrily speaking up for her, and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. Speak, where is Feng Ling? Water Spirit put the sword against her neck and said hatefully. Gong Sunfei looked at the sword against her neck and suddenly leaned forward, ready to bump into it. Water Spirit was so scared that she immediately pulled back her hand. Not being able to touch the sword, Gong Sunfei smacked her lips regretfully and looked at Water Spirit provocatively. I knew you wouldn't dare to do anything to me. I'll leave my words here. Unless I'm in a good mood, don't even think about getting any information from me. Everyone saw the thrilling scene just now. They didn't expect Gong Sunfei to be so stubborn. She was so stubborn that they were in a dilemma. They couldn't kill her, and they couldn't get any information from her. What should they do? Just when everyone was at their wits' end, someone came in and reported, Master, the young master and the two elders are here. Xiao Su frowned slightly when he heard this. What were they doing here at this time? Just when he was about to send them back, he heard the subordinate say, the young master said that he came here on the young princess's orders. Ian. Xiao Su was a little confused, but he still let them in. Not long after, 2 adults and 1 child swaggered in holding hands. Before Xiao Su could speak, Xiao Kong ran over and hugged his leg. He looked up and said with a grin, Mother knows that you didn't find Feng Ling crispy, so she asked Bao Bao to send Daddy a helper. Chapter 1670. Helpers? Everyone looked at the 2 old masters in confusion. Could it be that the Grand Emperor and Old Master Chu could help find Feng Ling? But even the Shaolai cavalry could not find him. Could they be of help? Seeing that everyone was looking at great-grandfather and grandfather, Xiao Kong immediately patted his father's arm and shook his head. It's not them, it's not them. Then who was it? Could it be you, little one? Everyone felt that it was a little funny, but they could not laugh in this situation. Xiao Su knew that the little fellow would not joke about serious matters. He carried his son and asked patiently, Then who was your mother talking about? Xiao Kong showed a rare look of disdain towards his father. There, it's them. Didn't he see the 3 big helpers? Everyone looked in the direction that Xiao Kong was pointing and saw Bai Yutong, Snowflake Cake and Glutinous Rice Ball scratching their heads and licking their fur uneasily. They could not help but twitch their mouths and show their disappointment. It was still acceptable to fight, but how could Bai Yutong and the rest be of help in this matter? Little Princess Consort was not joking, right? Feeling that everyone was looking down on them, Bai Yutong and the rest arrogantly raised their chins. If Master did not ask them to come over, they would not be willing to do such a thing. This was really infuriating. Where's this fat pig? I really want to take a bite. Thus Bai Yutong and the rest were attracted to Gong Sunfei. They went forward and sniffed. Achoo, this fragrance is so pungent. Should we throw her into the lake to wash and eat her? Just as these 3 eyes were glowing with green discs and thinking about how to chop her into pieces, Gong Sunfei was frightened by the 3 big fellows who suddenly approached her. Finally, when she saw the 3 shining fangs, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. TSK so timid. The 3 of them also rolled their eyes. Everyone felt that the 3 of them were too intelligent. Every move they made could tell what they were thinking. Xiao Su retracted his gaze and asked his son, What did your mother say? Xiao Kong immediately sat up straight. Recalling his mother's instructions, he said word for word. Mother said that the snow wolf's nose is very sensitive and can use its sense of smell to find its prey. So as long as Bai Yutong and the others ask about the things that Feng Ling Su touched, they can use the smell to find him. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone suddenly realized that this was indeed a good idea. A smile appeared on Xiao Su's face. As expected of the little guy, he was always able to find a way out of a hopeless situation. But do we have anything related to wine spirits? Xiao Yao asked. Water Spirit's eyes lit up. Yes. She immediately took out a handkerchief from her sleeve. She had taken it from Feng Ling's room as a souvenir after he left that year. She had never left it in the past 10 years. She never thought that it would come in handy today. Let them smell it, the retired emperor said to Water Spirit. Water Spirit nodded heavily, squatted down, and handed the handkerchief to the three of them. Bai Yutong and the others were a little unwilling. They were the dignified kings of the Snow Mountain. It was fine if they were dyed black dogs, but today they were reduced to being dogs. They were truly angered. But thinking of their master's instructions before he left, they still went over and sniffed the handkerchief. The three of them looked at each other, and without another word, they rushed out like the wind. They split up and sniffed the corridor, then sniffed the garden. Not long later, the three of them stopped and looked in the same direction. Everyone had already followed them out. At this time, they saw them running wildly in one direction. It could be seen that they already had a direction, so everyone immediately followed. Water Spirit and Hualing followed in front. When they saw that the three of them were heading to the backyard that they had searched no less than 3 times, they were a little surprised. Bai Yutong and the others did not look at those luxurious houses, but ran more and more remote until they stopped at a tightly shut small dilapidated house. If this place was considered a harem, then this place could be considered a cold palace. Not only was it geographically remote, it was also overgrown with weeds, and it looked like there was no one around. We just searched this place twice but we didn't find anything, Hualing said in confusion, but at this time, the three of them were already scratching the door. Seeing this, he immediately went forward to push open the courtyard door. As soon as the door opened, the three of them shot out like arrows. However, they soon slowed down and began to sniff around, calling out incessantly. Water Spirit had been watching their actions the entire time. Seeing them like this, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. What's wrong with them? Ji Linyang, who was standing beside her, rubbed his chin and thought for a bit. If this one didn't guess wrong, they smelled a strong scent here, but because the scent is too strong, they can't tell where the person is right now, so they are trying to determine the location. When these words were said, Water Spirit's eyes lit up. Her hands were tightly clenched together, praying that the three of them could quickly determine Fengling's location. Then she would be able to find him. Bai Yutong walked to the side of the pond and suddenly turned around to howl at Xiao Su. Wolf Language Online Translation. Hear, hear. Xiao Yao and the others were stunned. This was a pond. How could they hide someone? Was this Bai Yutong's information wrong? However, when Xiao Su walked over with his son and looked at the surface of the pond, he suddenly remembered that when they first entered North Korea, the entrance was also at the bottom of the pond. He narrowed his eyes. At this time, Ji Linyang seemed to have also thought of this. They looked at each other and nodded slightly. Drain this pond. When Xiao Su finished speaking, Xiao Liqi immediately stepped forward and scooped up bucket after bucket of water. Because it hadn't rained this winter, there wasn't much water in the pond. Soon, the mud at the bottom of the pond was exposed. Someone jumped down and pushed the mud away. When he felt the rock below, he exclaimed, "Master, there's a door below. Move it away." Xiao Liqi didn't say anything else, and worked together to move the 1,000-pound rock away, revealing the entrance inside. Bai Yutong and the other two were the first to jump in. Water Spirit followed closely behind, and everyone else also stepped in. Inside, there were stone walls and stone steps. A cold air came out from below, and everyone couldn't help but shiver. These 2 days, Fengling felt that his body was about to reach its limit. He couldn't hold on any longer. He thought sorrowfully that seeing her and Master again in this life was already an extravagant hope. It seemed that he had to leave first and wait for them on the road to the Yellow Springs. He didn't know if he could discuss with Mengpa to drink her soup later, and let him guard the Bridge of Helplessness until he saw Water Spirit again, before reincarnating. Because he had drunk Mengpo's soup and crossed the Bridge of Helplessness, he had forgotten everything and cut off all ties with his previous life. He was afraid that everything would be erased. He and her would just be a dream left behind on the river of forgetfulness. As he thought dizzily, he seemed to feel something licking his face and his hands. He thought, could it be that woman who released the dog to eat him? He didn't expect that in the end, he would fall to the point where there wasn't even a corpse left. At this time, a series of footsteps sounded by his ear, as if stepping on his heart. Fengling, I'm coming. A heart-wrenching cry pierced his eardrums and directly hit his heart. His heart skipped a beat. You're coming? Is it you? My water spirit. Chapter 1671. As soon as Water Spirit entered the dark little house, she smelled the scent of blood. Her heart tightened, and when she turned the corner and saw the person lying on the bed, she forgot to breathe for a moment. Borrowing the faint light from the stone door, she saw the appearance of the person lying on the bed. His face was weak and thin, but even if he turned into ashes, she would still recognize him. She stumbled over and wanted to reach out and hug him, but she saw that his clothes were stained with blood. She didn't know where he was injured and her arms were frozen in the air. Finally, she slowly lowered her hands and touched his face. Fengling, are you asleep? Open your eyes and look at me, she softly said, overjoyed. But when she saw his pale face, her voice was close to begging, fear and sadness. Fengling, who had already stepped into the gates of hell, heard someone calling out to him in the distant void. The voice was so familiar, just like the time when she clamored for him to accompany her to buy rice cakes on the street. However, there was a bit more anxiety, fear and panic in this voice. He looked at the gate where the ghosts were floating and resolutely withdrew his foot. He turned around and quickly walked back the way he came. After staying here for so long, he already didn't know what warmth felt like. At this time, there were warm water droplets falling on his face and sliding down his neck, as if injecting a trace of strength. Fengling slowly opened his eyes, but unfortunately, it was still dark in front of him. But what was worth being happy about was that he could clearly feel someone holding his face and saying something in his ear. When he recovered, he heard what the person beside the bed was saying. Fengling, I'm Water Spirit. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were brought here and let you suffer so much. I'm sorry, I should have come to find you earlier. Fengling, don't sleep. Master and I have come to find you. Quickly wake up and look at me, Fengling. The voice was mournful, filled with endless sadness and longing. I didn't expect that after not seeing you for so many years, you're still so good at crying. Water Spirit cried and cried. Suddenly, she seemed to hear someone teasing her. Her eyes were filled with tears, and there were tears on her eyelashes. Her vision was blurry. She blinked hard, trying to see the person in front of her clearly. At this moment, her cheeks were covered by a cold hand. I'm fine. Don't cry. She wanted to nod her head, but when she heard his hoarse voice, her tears welled up again. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't say a word. Seeing him like this, she regretted that she was late. Fengling felt the warmth on his fingertips and felt even more uncomfortable. His entire body was in pain, but he had long become numb to the pain. However, when he heard the cries of his sweetheart, his heart began to ache. Huiling looked at Fengling, who was covered in wounds, his eyes closed, and didn't have a trace of life left, causing him to stagger. Hearing Xueling's words, Huiling's eyes immediately turned red as he angrily shouted, What nonsense are you spouting? Master will definitely save Fengling. Xiao saw the once handsome subordinate lying there in a sorry state covered in blood. His throat seemed to be choked and his eyes turned red. Ethereal had already squeezed in front of them. Without waiting for his master's orders, he immediately reached out and carefully placed his hand on Fengling's wrist. That hand full of wounds made him, a person who had practiced medicine for many years, tremble uncontrollably. He couldn't find a single part that was uninjured to take his pulse. Water Spirit looked closely at Ethereal, her bright eyes filled with hope. Ethereal's eyes stared blankly. Then he said loudly, Quick, move Fengling away from here. The cold air has entered his body and his life is in danger. Water Spirit was stunned and couldn't speak. She subconsciously wanted to carry Fengling, but she didn't know where to start. He was covered in wounds and she was afraid that he would be in pain. Ethereal saw that she was already out of her wits and couldn't care about anything else. He pulled Water Spirit away and bent down to carry Fengling. He quickly said, Water Spirit, quickly get someone to get hot water and prepare scissors. Ethereal's movements were very fast, as if there was wind under his feet. Everyone made way for him. because at this moment, everyone knew that Fengling was probably all ready. Water Spirit looked at her empty arms and her gaze landed on the remaining bloodstains on her hands. The glaring red instantly woke her up and she hurriedly chased after them. Everyone looked at the three people's departing figures and immediately followed after them. Xiao Su stood in the stone room, and his gaze swept over the simple room inch by inch. His eyes were scarlet, as if a storm was brewing. After he finished looking, he retracted his gaze. There was no more red in his eyes, only a bone-chilling cold was left. He then walked out with large strides. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.